Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, and welcome to Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. This is episode 7, and we hope all of you are having...
Let's just go with excellent. No, let's just go with excellent this time. It's been a shit week. Let's lift people up. And this is Karak with ACG trying to lift you up. Lifting you up by your bootstraps. I noticed last night. Did you see my Twitter?
Yeah.
Dude, I went off on people, man. I was so... I don't know if you see this on YouTube. I just want to say this really quick, but on YouTube it tells you who watches, who overlaps. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, dude, I'm going to say this. Like, these are, I love all these guys. And I was just like, I'm just going to grab the first page because you can click the pages. So I copy and paste everybody. Dude, it took three fucking seconds for somebody to get negative. And I told people, I was like, this year, be prepared for angrier Karak. And my Twitter, I woke up this morning and reread some of my stuff and I was like, damn, son, there's a good chance some people are at home right now bawling. Like, I was just like, you fucking, it was just nuts. But I was like, dude, this has been a crap week for everybody. It's like, let's shine a little positivity on people. Because it's sort of been a shitter all around. Like,
yeah, I've had a shorter leash with people too, man. Like, I usually am very much, I will respond to the good comments. I'll leave the negative ones just to exist. Right. And this year, I have just really been like, I just feel like absolutely clapping back on you. You've said something so impossibly dumb that I feel like you need to know it. And some people say, well, that feeds them. I don't fucking care anymore. I really don't.
And you can also just, like the big thing now, Matty, and one thing, and any creator who's jumping in should do what I'm saying right now. Do not stress out turning off comments or muting people or whatever, because I'm going to tell you right now, the people who bitch about that are the ones who will do those things. Like, for the majority of people, yeah, sure, you'll have somebody who's like, freedom of speech, blah, blah, blah. Freedom of speech is not the same as consequences of free speech. Like, the consequences, you can get muted on Twitter. And like, dude, I blast people. Like, I like, the guys from Gamer Ranks were DMing me and were like, dude, seriously, there's a crater where that guy was. Like, what the fuck? And I was all, you know why? Because I was just like, dude, with COVID and all this stuff, why allow people to bring us down? Like, we'll bitch about stuff, but it's like, if you want to say something positive or I want to say something positive, man, now's the time where I'm just like, you better watch the fuck out, because I'm just no holds barred. Like, this year, that way also, when we say good to everybody and have a good day, we mean it even more. Mm-hmm. That's what I was getting to with all this diatribe. We just mean we love you and we hope you have a good time. For sure. That's what this show's all about. We want you to just enjoy gaming, take a step away from all the loud stuff happening around you, and enjoy a little quiet time. A little sex box. Yeah, why not? So for those who don't know, you're new here, which we've been getting a lot of new listeners, and that's thanks to a lot of your mobile ratings. So do keep that up. We're just about to pass 300. It is making a difference, and we appreciate all of you who are taking that extra time to just go out of your way and do that for us, because in all honesty, I don't know how it really benefits you, but you're really helping lift our show up, and we just hope that the product we're providing continues to make it encouraging for you to just support us in any way possible. Also, early access for this show, it goes live on Thursdays over on patreon.com/laststandmedia. Sunday is when it goes free to everyone, whether you're on Spotify or iTunes, whatever. We will be there on Sunday. And of course, if you want to watch our mugs, you can see us over on the Last Stand Media YouTube channel. Of course, Defining Duke Ultimate, our supplemental podcast, continues on thanks to your support over on Patreon. We just did episode 3 with Chris, where we rated all of the Halo games. It was really Chris hosting the show, as I'm sure most would expect. Chris was phenomenal. Which number 1 was number 1, or was number 3 number 1? Or was number 2 number 1?
He had number 2 at number 1. I had Combat Evolved at number 1, and then we both kind of agreed that, despite our nostalgia, number 3 was the top Halo game. Yeah. And so really hard to top that game. Just phenomenal. And just Chris was just fantastic at breaking it all down, really, because you can tell how much he loves and obsesses over Halo. It's me on KOTOR times like 30, I think. And so having him on was great. So go ahead, give that a listen. He really pretty much hosted the show. Just how much he was in on the conversation was great. So give that a listen if you are a patron. And with that, with our standard intro stuff, Karak, what have you been up to, man?
The Xbox FPS Boost stuff, I messed around with that for a week. Technology-wise, that thing is beyond impressive. I love the idea of new tech, just like PS5 has various things, Nintendo has various things. It's always cool to see somebody doing something different, DLSS for PC. This is something different, and I guessed, and I was right. I feel so happy. In the podcast, I was like, I think this is what they're doing. It sounds nuts. I think this is what they're doing. And then somebody sent me a DM and they were like, no, you're right. That is exactly what I was like, yes, the one time I feel vindicated. It was awesome, man, playing those. I really haven't been playing much else though. Dude, I don't know, just watching shows. Like not doing a ton, the occasional video and podcast, but there's not a lot, Oh, Persona. I did finish the review up because yours is going Friday, right?
Yep.
I think
Friday.
You said, yeah.
Yeah, so for me, I'm kind of in the same boat, man. I've been just hopping between games lately. Like last night, I switched between 3 random games. I played Sonic Unleashed, I played Skate 3, and I played P5 Strikers for a little bit again. So I've just been kind of enjoying this lull where a lot of people are looking for something new. I feel like this is a great quiet time to just play a ton of stuff. But otherwise, I'm kind of in, like I said, the same boat. For me, I've just been writing a lot. I've been continuing to write and create, and I've really enjoyed that a lot. So that's kind of where a lot of my spare time has gone. Obviously, today, as we record this will be a busy day. We're going to be talking about the FPS Boost for backwards compatibility to Xbox. But also, we have that Nintendo Direct coming up, which I'll be streaming, and so I'm excited to see what's there. I could feel it in my balls. I think it's KOTOR port time. I think it's going to happen. And the only reason I say that is because I've willed it into existence. So for those who are listening after the fact, I either sound like a complete idiot or I sound like a genius.
There's a rumor that they've been working on some KOTOR since 2019 for something. I saw it on Reddit right before I signed in with you.
So. Yeah. So fingers crossed for that. But with all that intro stuff out of the way, let's get into some warm-ups. First one's a little bit off the walls, then we get into gaming. Andy Capt writes in, can you trust people who eat pizza with a fork and a knife? Now, Karak, I know you said you're not a foodie, but this is one of those questions that I think even a non-foodie could have some input on, right? Because it's a style, right? It's like the clothes you wear. You can comment on that, even if you're not a fashionista. So I don't know if have you ever witnessed someone actually consuming pizza with a fork and a knife? Is that legitimately
I have
a thing?
because my beard.
Oh, you do that?
You have to. With a beard? Oh, it's nasty. If you're like just deep throating a piece of pizza with a beard, dude, I've had cheese in my beard before where like my wife will come home and it'll be like a cell phone worth of cheese. Nah, it doesn't work. So if my beard gets mutton, like right here at the edges where you chew on it on accident, which by the way hurts worse than I can possibly describe. If I haven't shaved that and I'm eating pizza, I will have to cut it with, I don't like to. I like to eat pizza like a normal person, but
how do you feel when you had to do that? Like after a lifetime, because I imagine you didn't have a beard for
I'm
your
a
whole
man,
life.
dude. I'm a man. If somebody came at me and said, you're eating pizza like with a fork, I'd stab him in the neck with the fork. I was just like, no. But I do know people have weird tendencies, the pineapple thing as well on pizza. Like people get this weird stuff and I'm like, dude, man, like I'll eat it all. Well, like I said, aside from seafood. But yeah, no, I've eaten it with a fork. I don't love it. And on dates, if you're going on dates and you have a beard, which I'm married now, but prior, you look nasty. And so it's just like certain things I would definitely do.
Plus, I imagine the smell of the grease maybe
gets caught
it's
in
there.
gross. Anybody who's got a beard, wash that shit. By the way, because I've had girls tell me before, not about me, luckily, but told me about, matter of fact, they usually, not girlfriends, because the beard has been since my wife, but even she has stated that guys she's dated with beards, like if they eat like something citrusy, if they don't, it's hair. Like, it's nasty. Imagine just putting hair on or fucking like lemon on your head and not expecting it to smell. Like,
there's like a certain durability to a beard, I think, that just people assume,
there is.
It makes you look like rugged, and you're just like, yeah, this can handle pizza grease. Like, it's not gonna smell.
No, wash that shit, you nasty bastards. Run some water through it occasionally, for Christ's sakes. But do you eat it with a fork?
No, I use my hands,
right?
but
because you're from the East Coast, man.
Yeah, but not even that. It's funny. I brought this up when we did our Hitman 3 spoiler cast for Sacred Symbols Plus, and I was saying in the beginning of our episode, I forgot how it came up, because you know Dustin, when Dustin fucking talks, like, he just loves to just derail and just say, like, let's talk about something random. And so somehow we got onto this topic of pizza, and I was saying how when I have pizza, oftentimes my fingers will reek of that pizza grease.
Yes.
Okay, you get it.
They had cooled white pizza grease. Yes, I do. I absolutely get it.
All right, they had no idea what I was talking about. I said for hours my fingers will smell like pizza, and that's like the biggest drawback.
You know why they don't?
I love it though.
Because they stink, and they're the type of people who BO. They don't realize they stink, and everybody else does. Dude, it does smell.
They're the guys who get handed like deodorant sticks at PAX.
Oh my God! Or get an email from a private email saying, "Dude, please wash at a business." Have you ever had old-fashioned donuts?
Mm-mm.
So old-fashioned donuts are basically just an iced donut, but they have a congealed fatty sugar around them, and that is basically pretty much the same thing that you get off pizza.
Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about.
And so when you see them, it's white caked. And if you look at pizza, like Pizza Hut, which we've discussed, you know, at times I've had Pizza Hut, and it's thick with that. You gotta, man, you gotta dab. Yeah, it's like they smell. I'll just say this: they both, whoever said that, smells.
Yeah, okay, because I use dishwashing soap after I eat pizza every time. It's a foolproof method for those who have stinky pizza
gotta break
fingers.
The oil.
Yeah, cuts right through. Do that if you're having trouble. And so this is what you listen to for your
pineapple
Xbox
though.
Right?
We can't move on to Xbox before we discuss just for 1 second.
Oh,
just yay or nay pineapple on pizza. I have no issues.
Well, here's the thing. Never tried it, but have no interest or desire to.
Oh, okay.
I just feel like I've had a lot of different pizzas. I've had lasagna pizza. I've had like pizza with penne on it. Like pasta pizza.
How do you do that?
They just like put ricotta on it, and they just
really?
a ton of sauce. Yeah, it's very different.
Crazy. That sounds different. Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's this there's different things I've had before. Bacon on pizza, of course. Mm-hmm. But I feel like when you start to get sweet and tangy, like I don't think pizza goes well with sweet. And pineapple is great. I think sweetness, I'm not. At times I joke and call people freaks for it, maniacs even. But in all actuality, I just don't understand the combination of a sweet and a whatever you would describe pizza, a fatty.
Well, dude, I told you this. I grew up as a hunter, and they always warned you if it was sweet and meat and you hadn't put something on it, it was rotten. So I don't eat barbecue sauce on anything. I don't like sweet and meat at all. Like legitimately at all. I've had pineapple on Canadian bacon pizza, but that's really salty. Really salty. Like Canadian bacon is like a salt lick. So having sugary, that's not so bad. But like, yeah, I mean, I get you. There's some things that don't mix for me. They just savory and sweet is one of them. I get where you're coming from. Anyway, that was it. I just wanted to see.
No, dude. I'm fine with it. I was cheering us along there because I was like, I know Karak doesn't sometimes like the food talk. I was like, all right, we'll move on. You're like, wait.
Yeah, but the pineapple thing is past normal food talk for some strange reason. It's become a thing.
It is. Number 2 comes from Andrew. What up, Playboys? I think I'm starting to understand your taste in games, and I think you two are the perfect ones to help me. I've been paralyzed by choice between 3 RPGs on Game Pass to play next. Dragon Age Inquisition, Greedfall, and Middle-earth Shadow of War, which, by the way, that last one, I don't know if I would call that an RPG. The question is simple. Which would you recommend most?
Greedfall? What? That's not even a question, man.
Yeah, I was going to say, that
Sex,
is an easy
getting your balls
choice.
kicked in, or getting thrown off a building. Which would you... Dude, bad choices. And you're right, Matty. That ain't an RPG. That's not even close to an RPG. That's... I mean... What has it got? Skills, right? It doesn't even have attributes.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I don't blame Andrew because a lot of companies have this horrendous habit of saying, we got it a skill tree, so it is an RPG. And it's like, no, it's fucking not. It's not. I'm sorry. Yeah, the RPG term can bend a lot, like action RPG or whatever, but the second that a skill tree is added, your game is not an RPG. But I don't
SquarePants has a skill tree. Is it an RPG? No.
I would love a SpongeBob RPG, though. That'd be sick.
Would I.
Turn-based SpongeBob RPG.
Oh, dude. Oh, would that not be like South Park, right? Like South Park. But SpongeBob, that shit, that would rock, man. Dude, somebody needs to get on that.
Yeah, I was
ASAP.
about to say, that would sell. That would sell so much, man.
I
would dig that.
It would. It'd be awesome.
But yeah, Greedfall, Andrew. Greedfall is this colonial, magical RPG. A little bit of jank by Studio Spiders. Just extremely, extremely good, though. Their best work yet. It's got a good story. It's very BioWare-like. So you were looking at Inquisition. Inquisition's main story stuff is great, but it's a lot of that bullshit filler in between that's just terrible and really pulls you out of it. Great DLC, too. Yeah. Descent's good. Of course, Trespasser's great. A lot of people love that. I enjoyed it a lot. Sets up Dragon Age 4, so if you're interested in that, you may want to take a peek at Inquisition, but it's such a both those two games, Dragon Age Inquisition and Greedfall, may take you about the same amount of time. So I would personally just say go with Greedfall. It's a really cool one-off.
Yeah.
Number 3 comes from Tyler. Everyone just uses their first name here on this channel. Hey, boys. I had a question regarding the Bethesda acquisition. Now, I want to just cut this off real quick and say, I know we've talked about this a lot, but this question has a different angle that we have not talked about yet. So it's not about like exclusivity or whatever. It's about announcements. So I just wanted to make sure people knew that up front. Now that the deal has been finalized, well, it's being finalized, how do you think Microsoft will roll out their game announcements moving forward? BE3 was a pretty awesome way to catch up on what Bethesda was up to, but I could see Microsoft wanting that attention added to their Xbox events. Do you think Microsoft will let Bethesda continue to do such events, or will they be forced to roll up all announcements and reveals into Xbox-only related events? P.S. Fuck the swear jar. Amen to that. So I thought this was interesting because while we've talked about exclusivity and stuff, we've never really talked about the way reveals can occur. We've talked about events, but Bethesda has historically ran their own E3 event year in, year out outside of last year. Last year, they took part in like the PlayStation State of Plays and whatnot, where they did Ghostwire, they did Deathloop. So they've been involved on the company's front. And so I think they'd be fine taking a step back. It'd probably save them a lot of money. But I do wonder with BE3 if they're going to continue forward with it, because the last one they did seemed pretty indicative that if they don't have like a bang in the air where everything's just happening to sync up, then it feels very barren, forced, and unnecessary. And it would make more sense for them to roll into what Microsoft's doing and kind of just add to that showcase. And I don't think it would take away any spotlight. Just the difference is, what happens when it's a Starfield and Todd Howard? Like, we know he's on that stage for a half-hour minimum, showing off everything, talking about everything, marketing it all. I don't know how that squeezes into what Microsoft wants to do. So what do you make of where Bethesda may go with their future reveals for, say, a Starfield?
I just want to say there's a little podcast out there called Mr. Matty Plays Ham Radio Podcast that last week we discussed this, but Matty was not there.
There you go.
And then I discussed it in the international podcast as well for a brief moment, but I believe it was Dustin and I. I believe it was Dustin, or maybe it was even longer ago, but our belief was that most likely that once this thing's been signed, we will start to see them blurt out a couple things, but we didn't know how it would go because Todd Howard. Okay, so Phil's not going to say, Todd, what are you doing, bro? You can't go out there. No, that doesn't make any sense. Todd will just leave, right? Todd would leave and just, what I mean is, I don't think that dude's ever been under anybody for years. Todd's been his own boss since the dude walked out of his mom with his fucking vault suit on. So I don't see him, I don't see Phil ever saying, dude, well, did you watch their announcement? It's like they had center state. They were both 50-50 on the screen. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like Phil was he was above because it was split in the middle, but I mean, it wasn't like you're this little side pip corner. So I would assume they'll do whatever they want. They'll announce whatever they want. I would love to see them not come out if there's nothing big. I would also like to see Todd come out with Phil Spencer's more brutal way of talking. I don't know if he will, because I think Todd, other than the one apology for 76, which is fine, Todd's not necessarily the way Phil is, but I would love Todd to just come out for one of these events and say, yeah, we don't really have anything, but I just want to celebrate you guys. We're giving some shit away like Oprah. Peace out. And just walk out, and because it doesn't, if it's always just about big games, then you almost know if they announce they're going to be there, it's going to be a big game. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so like,
it's like a double-edged sword.
Right. So to me, it would be nice to have a bit of a surprise where somebody's like, hey, here's a picture of Starfield. I would also love for one of these guys, it'll never happen. I would love for one of these guys to walk out, and I would love for Todd to be like, you guys got us. Those were real pictures of Starfield. He'd just say it. The leaked ones. It would be so cool to have a boss who just walks out and he's like, bitches, which one of you guys found that? Because you're good. Because those were real. Like, you actually figured it out. Thanks, because now our security will be higher. But good job. High five.
I was going to say, I the closest we get to that is kind of like jabs at people who complain about them re-releasing Skyrim.
Yeah, true.
And then you got Pete Hines who goes like, stop buying it then.
Stop
it's like,
buying
Jesus Christ. Like, okay, that's a little on the nose. But yeah, man,
I've come around to Pete. I think his not being on social media has helped me for a while sort of come to grasp with the way he dealt with things.
I think he does a really good job, honestly. He's also one of the nicest people I've met, just on a personal note. Yeah, I'll always remember during the 76 event, like he had me sit down at a table with him and like I ate and we talked and it was
awesome.
It was awesome. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Especially with, he doesn't have an ego, but like he's super high up in the company, man. To just sit down one YouTuber like that, that's kind of, especially like I hadn't grown that much at that point, right? I was a decent size. So that was really nice of him. And he's always been good. So I appreciate him a lot. But yeah, that Skyrim thing was fucking hilarious. I would like to see Todd Howard's appearances be a little more casual too. Because
that's what I mean.
There is that notion of, I'm guilty of it, by the way, but I'm 100% talking about myself when I say there is that freak out kind of culture when he does appear where you're like, oh, fuck. And that is a good weapon to have, right? That is a good thing to have if you're a company, just like Todd's going to be there. And suddenly your numbers have just shot up and you're like, oh, okay, there's even more people coming in. I think it's a good indicator that something is going to be shown off because he doesn't just, it's almost like the importance of Todd Howard. And I don't mean to be crazy about it, but just when he shows up, it's like, oh, he's not going to waste the time. Like he's going to bring something with him, so to speak. I also think they'd be dumb to not use him because to be honest, a lot of people just love, I love Todd Howard, but I'm saying a lot of people just like love how he sells the game to them. He always has that like, one quote that comes out of every conference. Like first it just works. Sadly with 76, it was 16 times the detail. So I feel like
Arnold Schwarzenegger. He says something for each movie and you pick up on it.
Yeah,
I do want to say you reminded me of something that we don't do, and God damn it, we should have done it, but you stated you hadn't really grown at the time when you were talking to what's his name? Pete. I do want to say, everybody who's listening right now, if you're not subscribed to us, go subscribe. That was it. Sorry. Dude, I've had 0 subscribers this month. Or not 0, but 0 growth because I haven't done a bunch of stuff. And I was looking at it going, man, I'm on a whole new podcast. And then I was like, dude, we don't pimp our stuff very well. Like I gotta figure out a way to do it. I need to like a billboard of some kind. That's what I need. A billboard or naked chicks.
I have realized, and it sounds ridiculous, but at first at times I think, oh, I'm like over promoting this, but I look around me and see how many people talk and talk and talk. And I don't want to be that guy who like everything's a plug. But
one time in a podcast is not.
Yeah, I was gonna say one time in a 2-hour window doesn't hurt though. And that's
So I was just telling people, if you're watching this, go subscribe, make us feel better. We told you to have a good day. You can hit a subscribe button, right?
I was about to say, man. All right, perfect. Well, that's what we think about what's going on with Bethesda in the terms of announcements. Hopefully we see something in the coming month or so because the deal should be finalized March 5th, I believe, is when it should go through with the EU. So far, there have not been any snags. We will pay attention to that and see if anything happens. But for the time being, the clock is ticking, and I'm sure within the next month and a half, we'll hear something. For now, we move on to Jeremy 10. Hey, Matty and Karak. Hope your recent days have been as mediocre as mine. Wow, how negative. My Series X will be arriving this week, and I wanted to ask what 3 games you'd recommend jumping on first for an Xbox amateur like myself. Perhaps 3 games that personally define the experience of gaming on Xbox for both of you. Now, this is the great part, Jeremy. We appreciate when those of you who ask for recommendations do this. If you're going to ask for any recommendation ever, background helps. Jeremy says, for a little background, I've been on PlayStation and Nintendo for as far back as the PS3 and GameCube. Although I've dabbled a little bit with Xbox in Xbox One's early days with Halo 5, Quantum Break, and Sunset Overdrive. Love the show. Keep up the great work from sunny Singapore, Jeremy. Thank you, Jeremy. So, with that background there, that makes it a little more easier to navigate. Now, he's saying what defines the Xbox experience, right? And for me, I don't want to pick out exclusives because I think of something immediately like a Wasteland 3, which is in the Game Pass umbrella, but it's also from a studio that's now owned by Xbox. Mm-hmm. And I would say that's one I would personally start to take a look at.
I'd say Gears.
Yeah, Gears always. Gears, we talk about Gears so much here.
Yeah, and Gears 5, I mean, every Gears is good. I mean, like, that's what's ridiculous, is they're all good. So, sort of, unlike Halo, where there might have been one or two, I think people consider missteps. So, Forza. I would say Forza Horizon is also a good one. Sea of Thieves if you're an MMO, because even though I didn't like it day one, and I think Matty didn't, I can't remember. Did you like Sea of Thieves day one?
I saw the potential in it, but it didn't like have its hooks in me. But I'm not like a big pirate
MMO,
fan in general. So yeah, it takes like a pirate plus something, right? Like a little angle on it, like alternate history or something crazy like that to make that work for me.
I would just tell people, if you're new to Xbox, that might be the prettiest game ever on the Xbox.
Yes, it looks so good. It looks so good.
It's unbelievable at times.
If you got friends to play with, it's
ton.
Fun.
Yeah, that was gonna say. Yeah, that's not a single player game, man. Like at all. But if you're in this Discord and stuff, I've seen people talking about it, so they're most likely playing it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think outside of that. I mean, they have a lot of exclusives coming this year. I'm sifting through Game Pass in my head. Ori, of course, is one of them. You didn't mention Ori in your list. You say Quantum Break, Sunset, and Halo 5. Sunset is like my major blow because that's the one I always go to because where I think, hey, that was early in Xbox One. It's still exclusive. This could be great for you to try out, but it seems you've already got to that. I would say give Ori a shot. That's definitely one of the more definitive Xbox exclusives. It's also consistently very good, so that would definitely be another one I would say take a peek at. Other than that, if you're getting your Series X this week, Game Pass is the move, Jeremy. I'm sure you already know that, and we have weekly recommendations for that here on this show for those of you who are new. All right. Number 5 is a bit of rumor talk. I didn't want to put this in our news section. I kind of wanted to keep that a little more focused because there's just been a lot of murmurs around the industry. By the way, Karak, if you don't want to answer this at all, you just go ahead. Let me know. But with that, Anthony J. Sanchez says, hey, guys, let's talk about Techland and Microsoft. The rumor is going around right now that the next Dying Light game is either going to be a one-year timed exclusive for Microsoft or Techland will simply be bought. Randall Thor recently mentioned that the community manager of Techland said there's nothing to announce at this time, but didn't flat out deny these rumors. Karak actually is the individual who sparked these rumors by mentioning there's something the audience still isn't aware of. By the way, and Karak can speak for himself, but I will just say Karak never ever indicated who the fuck it was. But that in the time it would be revealed. I'm excited to hear your thoughts. Thank you. So like I said, Karak, if you don't want to comment on this, that's fine. I don't want to put a spotlight on you anymore because people like took you saying, hey, there's going to be probably some type of exclusive coming and went, ooh. And made
there
articles.
Still is, but I have no clue what they're talking about with Techland. None.
Okay.
So I have no clue even how Techland, I saw somebody DM'd me and said somebody else said they looked into it. They heard me talking, looked into it, and they thought it was Techland. Which was,
I was going to say.
Like, that's like 10 degrees of Kevin Bacon shit there. That's like saying, hey, man, I heard there's a library somewhere, so I've already read all the books. Like, that fucking, it made no sense, so I have no connection to that. But, I don't, that one, it's funny because Techland disappeared, dude. Dying Light disappeared. Like, it's gone. And now, did you see the Viking DLC for Dying Light 2?
That shit looks awesome, man.
Right.
That's such a cool surprise.
But here's the thing. Right. So that's the thing is, I saw the one guy who owns it says we're not being bought. He stated it back in the day and then reiterated it. But number one, he could be lying. Number two, he may not know because higher ups will know way before. But that surprised me because that came out of nowhere, dude. I played another bit of DLC they had on a alpha or beta a couple months ago, but it was a fantasy one. It was like a D&D. It had nothing to do with Vikings. So I want the Viking one. I don't know what it is. Is it just a Viking running around in the zombie world?
It looked like from what I saw, it's kind of like skins. Like there's a couple new weapons. There's like a new buggy skin.
That's awesome.
I thought it was great. I'm like, it kind of reminds me of Two Worlds 2, which I think late last year got new DLC, or was it 2019?
Oh my God. Yeah. The old shit RPG that, yes, it did. You're absolutely right.
And it's just like, Wow, man. So, I mean, we'll talk about it later. Halo 3 got a new map. So I just love seeing these old games.
True. That one did too.
Get support, man. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, but as for our thoughts on Techland and Microsoft, I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft's looking to nab a third-party kind of major exclusive. The reason I say that, and we'll be talking about Square Enix in this show, is that we're seeing PlayStation, I think, and this is my interpretation of the events, we're seeing PlayStation splash some money to sort of withhold. We've seen it with the likes of, say, a Resident Evil 7 VR. Xbox just did it with Bethesda, so don't get me wrong, we're not like playing favorites here. But, you know, I wouldn't be shocked if this was a path Microsoft was trying to take. If they were like instrumental in helping get Techland back on their feet, especially, I could see why this deal would go through, because they had to fire Chris Avellone due to a lot of things that came out about him involving harassment in the industry. And then there was a major, I think it was the art director had left. And obviously the game's gone dark. So it seemed to go through some tough times, despite how amazing it looks, which is what really stinks here. And so I wouldn't be surprised with a game that's struggling in its long development cycle if it came out with some type of exclusivity deal. Usually I feel like we see it on the Epic front, because that's like the safest, subtle way to do it. Because like you keep it on PS4, you keep it on Xbox, and the PC front, it's over on Epic. So you collect that big stack of cash from Epic. But I think there's a lot of possibilities to this rumor. Obviously, it's all we can really say. I haven't personally heard anything either. I think it's just that there's a lot of connections here that could be potentially drawn. I will say, when it came to the Techland community manager, how do I say this without sounding like a dick? But I don't think this person would know.
Many of them won't know.
I remember when Bethesda got acquired by Xbox, I saw people from Bethesda that I was friends with, not just like your programmer or whatever, like managers of the community, influencer managers, going, wow, what a crazy surprise to wake up to. Just like, that was a huge acquisition, man. And plus, if what is said about Xbox is true, that they acquire them and nothing changes, then the community manager doesn't need to know. So while they're coming out and saying, hey, nothing's happening, I don't think they would have a clue.
Also, I don't know about you, Matty, but looking at all the companies they have bought, I certainly wouldn't have thought of Compulsion Games. Would have never popped into my head.
Yeah.
And prior to that, Bethesda, no. I mean, you hear about it, but you were like, it's too much money. You always thought that it's too much. Now Ubisoft popped up. People were like, they're going to buy Ubisoft.
Yeah.
And all this stuff. I think a lot of us get trapped in thinking things like Dying Light 2 looks cool, so therefore Microsoft thinks it looks cool enough to spend $500 million on.
There's a lot of
which
that.
are not, they're not at all drawn. Like, that's not connected. It's like the chick being nice to you at the register and you're like, she digs me. It's like, no, dude, she's paid to fucking talk to everybody. Like, so we don't know. I mean, I think Techland's got some cool stuff, but man, they're so dead right now. Embracer Group, on the other hand, Embracer Group would not surprise me, because I think Embracer Group, they are just on such a purchasing. They make Microsoft. I get Microsoft spent, the $7.8 billion or whatever, but look at what Embracer Group has done. They're just snatching up for like close to $1 billion. They're just like,
yep.
So,
yeah, that's a good point too. That wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. But yeah, I think, I wouldn't say expected, of course, but I would say don't be surprised if Microsoft pushes through on a deal like this.
You mean exclusivity or purchasing them?
Exclusivity. I don't know if they're going to purchase them.
Okay.
I think purchase them is almost a overcommitment.
Exactly. Exactly, man.
I don't know. And especially, you've got State of Decay 3, man. Like, I look at it this way. State of Decay 3 is probably a couple years off. You just did the Juggernaut Edition relaunch, which is great, by the way. People should check it out. It really addresses a lot of the issues the original launch had. But you've got a studio that's working on a zombie game, and it's going to be on the AAA level now. So I would say, spend your money and maybe get Dying Light this year. That would be sick. And then for Xbox and PC,
makes more sense.
And then let State of Decay speak for itself on its own, which is a company you already own. I feel like there's just an overextension there on Techland. So I would say my interpretation is exclusivity is probable. And like I said, I think it could be one of those, and not that these companies make decisions based off each other in the sense that, we hear that Square might be doing something, let's do this. But I just think that Square or PlayStation is making a similar move with Square Enix to maybe not buy them, although I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but absolutely they are giving them money to withhold stuff. That is my personal belief. And we'll talk about that later on the show. But for now, Karak, let's wrap it up and get into the news. So number one, Xbox's backwards compatibility program is getting beefed up. On February 17th, Xbox introduced what they call FPS Boost. They describe it as employing, quote, a variety of new methods for nearly doubling and in a few instances quadrupling the original frame rate on select titles. We partner closely with developers to enhance the experience while maintaining the game's original intent. And while not applicable to all games, these new techniques can push game engines to render more quickly for a buttery smooth experience beyond what the original game might have delivered due to capabilities of the hardware at the time, end quote. The Xbox Wire post continues saying, quote, Far Cry 4, New Super Lucky's Tale, Sniper Elite 4, UFC 4, and Watch Dogs 2. We chose these initial collection of titles not only because they are popular among fans, but to highlight several different ways that FPS Boost can improve your experience. For example, New Super Lucky's Tale can now run at up to 120 frames per second, and UFC 4 can now deliver improved frame rate performance specifically on Xbox Series S and can now run at 60 FPS. This is just the beginning. We will announce and release more titles featuring FPS Boost soon, as we will roll out new menu icons and system settings in an upcoming system update. Starting this spring, you can go into Manage Game section for any title where you'll be presented with a new compatibility options button that will allow you to toggle FPS Boost as well as Auto HDR on and off. There will also be a new indicator informing you when a game is running with FPS Boost when you are hitting the Xbox button on your controller. Also, for those who want to test this out when it comes this spring, New Super Lucky's Tale and Sniper Elite 4 are available via Game Pass for you to try out. So keep that in mind when this update drops. Karak, you said you were able to tinker around with this, right? You were part of the preview program, so it's all you, man. You talk, we listen.
Yeah, I was sort of mad because I tried to get some extra data, and I wanted there to be an icon now, and there isn't an icon now, so it was a little confusing on when some of these were being updated. But basically, yeah, I got in the preview program, and I did a podcast on it. You can watch. I was going to do video, but I was just like, there was some difficulties behind the scenes of sort of trying to get some of the data I wanted. But I will say that basically it does almost identical to the Hashin. Is it Hashin patent? I think, no, that's not what it is. There's basically a guy who did the backwards compatibility. He patented it under his name. But basically with backwards compatibility, he patented taking mip maps and fooling the system into thinking you're using the shitty distance mip map when on the new systems you're using the up close one. So it's like a virtual file system, almost like a mod organizer for Skyrim. So you have these files over here, and the system thinks those files are in your main game, but they're not. So whenever it calls this mip map, instead of calling the far away swing and sign texture, it, no matter how far away, calls the up close one. So you get a much higher def. And this does the same thing. Strangely enough, it just does it with FPS. So it basically draws a frame and then tells the system, hey, bro, you didn't draw a frame. And so it immediately draws another one.
Very cool.
And it gets as many as it can in that allotted frame, which is why Lucky is 120. Some games are 60. It depends on their latency input and stuff. But, dude, Far Cry 4, the problem is, dude, is they're not the best resolution games. Far Cry 4 isn't a normal resolution game. It's not 1080p. It's like, I think it's 1440 by 1080. A really weird, where you have horizontal being more than the vertical, and so you get a bit of a blurriness. But it's running at 60 smooth. Which is nice. It is a massive difference there.
Now these are coming in via not updates to the game, right? These are just like, hey, our AI is able to improve how they perform.
That's another weird thing. They said reset the system so that it appears, reset the system so something happened. But I reset it and there was no update. It was almost like, I don't know if the shit's been there for a while, but all I had to do was be in the preview. And that doesn't require an update. It requires you signing into the preview. So yeah, it's something they do where they basically, they just fool it and they get right. They were talking about it, but it's like they take the buffer of the frame and then they're like, hey, you didn't draw a frame. And it goes through everything all over again. and then redraws another frame, and now instead of 30 you have 60 because you're doubling up. And so it won't fuck up like Skyrim. If anybody's played Skyrim in the old days, they've now fixed it, but if you went above 60 it would go batshit. You'd have loaves of bread flying through the world because the physics were tied to the frame rate. And so that's why they also say it won't work on every game, because you want to make sure you don't have a game where the physics are like, I've thrown a piece of bread at your face, it's halfway to you, and then the game is like, oh, draw again, and now it's actually, what happens is the motion is doubled, so the speed is faster. And so what happens is, that's what happens in Skyrim. When you walk into a building, sometimes you would hear like shit going, tick, 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 and that's because it was being magnified, basically. It was just like, it was shaking, and there was like just too many guesses on the math of where it was. So yeah, it's awesome, dude. It's not CPU, GPU being faster. It's actually not only that, I'll say. It's an actual programming technique, and it's fucking awesome. And I hope we see it on everything, because it's not required to be on Xbox. Somebody else could, now that they sort of know what's going on, there's probably a way to, for PlayStation, Nintendo. Nice. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, especially Nintendo. That'd be great for them, right? Because that's the biggest thing. And I've been playing Fire Emblem Three Houses every now and then, and it's all right. I enjoy it, but aside from my opinion on the game, the biggest challenge I've had going back to my Switch after really next gen launched, it happened with Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity, is you play it and it just feels old. And so Nintendo is starting to do things with the cloud, like you're getting cloud edition of Hitman 3 and Control. And so this, I would be very excited to see them get their hands on, because it's the FPS, man, is what I really, really struggle with. And if it's an AI technique, a programming technique, that would be something that I think they could probably try to squeeze in, because it's not stressing out the hardware anymore. At least that's my interpretation as a noob.
It's just not the main thing. You know how in the old days when you bought a new video card, you knew you had headroom? It's not just headroom, is what I'm saying. It's headroom plus them intelligently figuring out a way to fool the system. And so I don't know exactly, what game, like that's the thing, is we don't know exactly what's going to happen in the future, because Lucky is 4K, by the way, which was weird. Lucky is 4K native, and now is 120 FPS 4K native. So you're like, all right, that's higher than Far Cry. Why is Far Cry not 120 if it's not even 4K? It's not even close to 4K. So there's obviously some stuff behind the scenes too with each graphics engine, but yeah, it'll just be cool. Yeah, we don't know. The cool thing is what about next time? A Nintendo developer sees this and goes, okay, for the Switch Pro, we might, do something like this.
I was going to suggest that next.
I'm excited for it, because it's not just power. It's just like checkerboard rendering for the PS4, which was able to do more than you thought it could. And I'm such a huge fan of that kind of stuff. I love it.
Yeah. So my thing is the titles they picked, I probably won't be able to try this for a while. Just I don't really have interest in any of them.
Yeah, they're not great.
They're not grabby
Far Cry
titles.
4, maybe, I guess.
Yeah, they're not grabby titles. I mean, for me, what's funny is you say Far Cry 4. I thought Super Lucky's Tale. I was like, I guess. I mean, that looked interesting enough.
Yeah.
I think a Fallout 4 would really benefit from something like this. Before Xbox Series X and S launched, they said, hey, Fallout 4 will be 60 FPS, and there is that mod that uncaps the frame rate. We've talked about that a lot. But in the terms of officially doing so to speak, I'm very surprised that this was not in the game batch there, just because a lot of people have been talking about it and having this desire for it, which I get. Fallout 4 is a great game. I think it's always fun to go back to.
Dishonored.
Yeah, I think everyone in Bethesda's library could just benefit from it in general.
Yeah. I mean, look at a Castle Wolfenstein or something suddenly getting, 120 FPS. That'd be pretty insane to see. 120 FPS is becoming a thing out of the blue too, which is weird, because you get 30 still, you get 60 with performance, and then randomly you get this jump to 120 that not only natively for like Gears, but this, which is using something. I don't know. It's an interesting FPS, because most people don't even have a TV that can come close to that. Or a monitor. Some people don't even have monitors that can come close to that.
Yeah, I think we've seen it in Gears 5. We've seen it in Ori, Will and the Wisps, and now we're seeing it here in Super Lucky still. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with this. A lot of people, because, we knew this was coming, and a lot of people had an inkling of it. And what happened was people were expecting like new titles to get added via backwards compatibility, this is very separate from it. This is improving the performance of it. And I think this is great because as you've noticed with our backwards compatible picks of the week, at least I personally like to dip into the 360 a lot. I think, there's a value there. But now what this does is it makes it more appealing in our show, and I think in general, to discuss the Xbox One library where they're going to push things forward, where now you could say, hey, Far Cry 4, if you're a console owner, this is best played on Xbox. And that's pretty cool. So it's something that we'll definitely keep a lookout for. And I think it expands our options. A lot of people worry at times, or I shouldn't even say a lot of people, a couple of people have written in saying like, hey, are we ever going to run out of games? And I mean, we already have a new Game Pass haul to talk about today. And the backwards compatibility library, I think they'll eventually expand it. So especially since they're continuing to focus on it. That's what, to me, the breath of fresh air here is, okay, they haven't dropped it, right? We've seen them look to the future, looked into these acquisitions, look into spending money when their big initiative starting in 2015 was this backwards compatibility. And obviously, I think the biggest draw could be adding more games to that library, but the fact that they're continuing to improve it is a really good sign. That makes me very happy. So unless you have anything else to add based off your experience, we can move on.
No, it's just cool stuff. Excited for the future.
Hell yeah. Number 2. Speaking of a new Game Pass haul, there is some more heading to Xbox, PC, and cloud. The following games being added soon are Elite Dangerous to consoles, Killer Queen Black to consoles and cloud, Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire Ultimate Edition to consoles and cloud, is that supposed to be Rec or Rest Fest? Rest Fest?
Rec Fest.
Okay, I don't know why I wrote Rest. Maybe it's because I'm tired today. I only
Rest
got like
Fest,
3 hours of sleep.
that'd be an amazing game. It's just siestas. Everybody just keeps going to sleep.
Wreckfest is coming to consoles, PC, and cloud. Dirt 5 is coming to consoles, cloud, PC. Super Hot Mind Control Delete to PC Game Pass. And Code Vein, which is already available on console Game Pass, as well as Super Hot, by the way, is coming to PC Game Pass. So, Karak, another solid batch here. Isn't Dirt 5 like relatively new?
Yeah.
How long ago did that come out, man? I saw that and I was like, that's got to be a joke.
I think Dirt 5 is like 2 months old.
Like, what the fuck? I'll double check it. But to me, that was the one that stood out. What's also interesting here is despite Obsidian being owned by Microsoft for a while, they're just now getting Pillars of Eternity 2 onto Game Pass. So this may not indicate what we had initially expected. By the way, Dirt 5, November 5th, 2020. So just 3 months. Feel bad for anyone who spent $60 on that. That's why I'm telling you. Game Pass, man. It's insane. But yeah, Pillars of Eternity 2 to me was also a standout addition because Obsidian's been owned by Xbox for long enough where we assume with Bethesda that once the acquisition goes through, like, everything's boom, dropped it on Game Pass. But maybe that's not what's going to happen because if they're just adding this in now, Pillars 1 was already there, but now they're getting Deadfire in. This is a series I have long neglected. I have never played Pillars outside of a little bit, man. And
they're awesome, but I don't think. I think what they're doing is purposely slowing. I mean,
the drip feed.
Spreading right. It makes sense too. You throw everything there. People, I saw people bitching that they had raised their price to $5. People were getting it for $1, and then they were like, "Oh, we're going to stop allowing that or whatever." And people were throwing a fit. They're like, "I don't know if it's worth $5." And I'm just like, "Wow, here we are. We're in the fall of humanity." If you're saying Game Pass isn't worth $5, so yeah, we'll see. But yeah, Pillars is great. And then there's Tyranny would be PC because there wasn't a console. But yeah, Pillars is awesome. Is well worth checking out. I think it's 100% fully voiced. I don't think I remember anything in that not fully voiced, which is a big deal to me. And it's Justin's music. He's awesome. So like I like that game. It's a little PC though, I will say. If that makes sense. Like... it's the first game from them that I felt there was a lot of ecology and kind of stuff, almost like Sims 4 Feel Bad Edition, because Sims 4 has this one edition that sells you on being a beachcomber. You go to like a paradise and you get a job picking up trash. Like you should feel bad as a sim. Like you should feel bad as a human, you know. And I think I remember in Pillars 2, there was a couple times where it was like a little touchy-feely when it came to like ecology and stuff, which is fine because, you know, Dark Sun, one of my favorite role-playing games of all time, was about a world that had almost no water anymore. And so I get it. Something about it just felt off. For example, I would say I think Pillars 1 I liked much more, even though I didn't dislike Pillars 2. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one that I've long neglected. So seeing them both on Game Pass makes it really appealing. I kind of thought about picking them up on Switch just because of the length of the game.
Can't, though.
Wait, don't they have one of them? Or
yeah, but
no,
it's bugged.
They're right. I was going to say they stopped the updates.
It's got a huge, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but for the longest time it had a huge gray screen update where it would just go gray and you couldn't play it anymore. And they were trying to figure out, and even I was like tweeting them, going like, guys, come on, man, like that can't happen. And I didn't remember them fixing it. So I own it on the Switch, and I played it for a little while. I didn't get that bug, but I actually stopped playing because I was worried I would.
Yeah, dude. Okay, so that changes things. Then, yeah, this is the best place for me to go. Consoles and cloud Game Pass, so you can play this on your phones if you really wanted to, which is pretty convenient because one of the news bits we're going to be talking about is about how xCloud is expanding, and I'm excited about that because being able to play on the console and then take it on the cloud and play it like here, for example, where I don't have my console but play through my phone. Like, I'm legit stoked for something like that. But yeah, for me, standouts here are Dirt 5, Pillars of Eternity 2. How much have you played of Elite Dangerous? I hear about this game all the time.
A lot. It's for a very certain select group of people. It's the EVE Online kind of people. It's the really in-depth kind of people. I like it personally, but I would never sit down to play it over a weekend or over a week. It's more sit down to play it for a month and play almost nothing else. It is insanely in-depth and very good game, but you don't really get to the game part very quick. In fact, I would say there isn't a lot of game part. It's weird. It's like exploring. It's almost like a sim trucker game, the Euro Trucker Simulator or Snow Runner. I love them, but they're not for everybody because the game part of them is like a spreadsheet. You're like, I'm going to buy rutabaga hearts from this planet, and I'm going to sell them here and buy metal from this planet that's 2.5 hours in real life away. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's the game.
Yeah.
I like it, but a lot of people are like, nah, not for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I think I just have a bad experience with Sims because I used to do a series called Humanity's Worst Games. Shout out to everyone who was subscribed to me in like 2013 and 14 when I was just fucking around doing this. But I would pick out horrible games, not based off my opinion, but just horribly reviewed games. So it wasn't like, oh, I think this is bad. And it was like a good game. Like, so one of them was, I think it was like Euro Truck Simulator. I want to say it was 2013 or 14. This game was horribly broken. And I remember just being mind-numbingly bored, but like trying to get people to, I think I was trying, was it Bus Simulator? That might have been it actually. And trying to get people to board my bus. It was infuriating because the AI just didn't work in that game.
Right,
so
right.
I just have a bad experience with Sims, but that could be cool. Killer Queen Black, I believe, is a good like couch co-op game. Don't know much about Wreckfest. And Code Vein, which is already available, like I said, on console Game Pass. Definitely worth a look if you have yet to play it. I have been long neglecting that as well. But there's a pacing to anime games. Like, I've already played Strikers. I'm in the middle of Fire Emblem. I can't take on another anime game. Like, it's just, there's just something there that holds me back from going all in. Like, I have friends who are just to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. I am not that. All right. Number 3. Halo MCC's new way and place to play has been unveiled, and if you don't know, then you may want to just check our comments from last week's episode where our episode went live and then the news came out of what it was.
I hate that shit.
While predictions ran out about a MCC heading to Switch or even PlayStation, it is much more simple than that. 343 has introduced a custom game browser. As the name suggests, this gives players the ability to browse and join custom games across the globe. What is even more neat is that Halo 3, a game which has not received a brand new map since 2009's Mystic 2 Math Pack. Math Pack, I just said? Oh, God, no. Map Pack is adding a new map to the game. This comes in the form of a map from Saber Interactive's canceled Halo Online game. This Halo Online game was an experiment only ever released in Russia in alpha testing before eventually being pulled. Separately, while not showing it off, 343 described the flexibility of the grapple shot in Halo Infinite. The grapple shot is able to pull weapons on the ground to you and can be used to pull yourself to vehicles to hijack, such as a Banshee. They also confirmed new and legacy weapons are going to be a part of the post-launch plans for the game. All right, Karak, so we talked and said that it's probably not going to be that as far as I remember, but we talked a little bit about Switch, PlayStation, people are writing in about MCC going different places. It's as simple as a custom game browser. So it's probably one of the biggest updates we've actually seen to MCC in a while now. With that alongside a brand new map, I mean, what the hell do you make of Halo 3, a 2007 FPS getting a new map in 2021? I mean, is that not awesome, dude? I think that's the most exciting thing. Especially because it comes from a canceled game that we just none of us have really ever seen.
Yeah, maybe it was far along. Maybe that map area was far along or something.
Yeah, it had to have been. It really had to have been. But I found this really exciting. Have you ever messed around with the custom game browser in Halo before?
No, I haven't touched Halo since Master Chief Collection came out and ruined me. Well, I mean, I played whatever new ones, for reviews, but I never returned to them. And then Master Chief came out and it burned me pretty bad. And and then I did try it recently, I don't know what month. What are we in? March? No, we're still in February. I played
Sadly.
it maybe what?
I'm saying sadly that we're still in February.
Yeah. I think it was summer of last year I tried Master Chief and still couldn't even connect to a co-op game.
Really?
It was like, I'm done.
That's
yeah,
strange.
and I know other people have said that they've been able to, but I know a lot of people still have issues. So yeah, I don't really do any Halo anymore. I'm just waiting for the new one.
I respect that. Yeah, I'm kind of getting the Halo, not fever from like Infinite hype, but I've just been itching to go back, and ranking the games again with Chris kind of got me in that mood to dive back in. And seeing how they're still supporting it is pretty good, especially with how they botched the launch. The fact that they're continuing to add more is really nice to see. So that's the update on the new way and place to play. They've also added in like the FOV slider and all the other things that we described in last week's episode for those who are on console. So
I do wish people, Matty, would just fucking knock it off with the over assuming of what's going on with a company when you hear rumors. That's the thing, is like 90% of the time it means nothing. And people are like, fuck, people are talking about Halo. It's going to be on, fucking Nokia phones. And you're just like, dude, it's not. Like, I don't
We're
get
guilty as charged, however.
But I don't think we were saying PlayStation. I certainly wasn't. I mean,
no, we didn't say someone wrote in about PlayStation.
Oh, and it's just like, just calm your tits, man. Half of the time that's not going to happen. Like, especially with a premier title, from a major company. It's not.
Yeah. I feel like Switch is possible. I still think it's possible it goes to different places, but we will see. Number 4, we've talked about this a little bit here in the beginning of the show, but now we can really dive in. Final Fantasy XIV coming to Xbox. This is something that doesn't seem to be happening. And this write-up comes from the Washington Post, where they interviewed Naoki Yoshida, who is producer and director of Final Fantasy XIV. For those unfamiliar, this is the MMO RPG set in the Final Fantasy universe, which is extremely popular. So I just took a little excerpt from the article. We're going to read it verbatim, and then we will discuss. This means expansions beyond 2021 and Endwalker, which is their newly announced expansion. But at least for the near future, it won't mean new platforms. Despite the game's success, by the way, it's monumental, Yoshida says a lot of his team's time is spent creating the expansions and leaves little room for expanding to Xbox or others, as much as they'd love to see the game beyond the PlayStation and PC ports. Quote, "We provide content on a fairly regular basis, and our cycle is rather condensed," end quote, Yoshida said. Quote, "And it is fairly stable cadence that we continue to follow. We have to think about long-term planning with additional platforms. We need additional testing for that particular platform, so it kind of exponentially grows the amount of resources that need to be allocated," end quote. Now, I've kind of developed a reputation on this show for consistently bringing up Final Fantasy seemingly every episode. But it's something in the news, or we're asked about 7 Remake coming to Xbox, which 7 Remake, I don't know why it's gone dark, but I'm really hoping that we see a next-gen update, even if it's just for PS5. I would love to go back to that game. But yeah, we're not hearing much of what's going on with that. It seems like now Square is pulling, we already know like Final Fantasy 16 was revealed at the PlayStation Showcase. I wouldn't be surprised if that was timed exclusive. And now we're seeing what I think, I'm just going to say, I think it's bullshit. Like, I really do, especially because a PC port exists. I really don't buy in to that Final Fantasy 14 cannot come to Xbox unless they have exponential more resources. To me, that doesn't smell right. It smells like greasy pizza fingers, in fact.
Which is a real thing.
Yeah, it is. And it is a real bad thing at that. So, that's where I sit on it. But where do you stand on this situation before we dive deeper?
So, I can't tell what it's sold. I mean, they say they have 20 million registered players. If that's all they have, it's not as big as I thought it was. I think in all honesty, man, people blow up Final Fantasy bigger than it is when you consider all games and all these games coming out. And so, I mean, I would assume Sony probably did pay, which is fine. Like that's life now, that people pay for exclusives.
Yep.
But I think what I noticed, especially with Final Fantasy VII Remake, was that it came and went. Mm-hmm. I mean, it came and went. Like, no one talks about it anymore. And that was the big cheese. I do see Fighting Cowboy talk about this one, because he likes this one. But even he's playing other stuff. And he goes back for the periodic things. And I'm wondering if maybe Microsoft's like, listen, dude, we could put it on there, but how many are we, realistically going to do? And maybe Square said, somebody's offering us a certain amount of money to keep it exclusive. Do you want to back it? I have no clue what's going on behind the scenes. But for me, I've looked at it. Doesn't look fun. Not for me.
I didn't play the for other people. Which I didn't play the expansions.
Expansions are supposedly really good, right?
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've played like 30 hours of the base game recently, by the way. This was just like towards the end of last year, and I want to get past that hump, but yeah, man, it just was not fun, and it was not interesting, and so I want to push through, but and this is coming from someone who has a lot of JRPG experience, and I get it. Like, there are some games that are slow to warm up, but I've never played a game that takes like 40 hours, 50 hours to get into like the actual expansions that matter. I would, because I got in when they, for those who need a time period, I got in when they announced that Heavensward would be a part of the free trial for the month. So my goal was to get through all of that, and I couldn't do it, man. Like, but what I don't get why, okay, we can't do anything with Xbox. I don't get why the PC front, is Xbox ever going to extend that Game Pass PC offering? That's where I connected the dots and went, this just seems more like here's why we can't do it. And what we've learned consistently with this industry is I think Kingdom Hearts, funny enough, another Square Enix game, Kingdom Hearts was a strong example of how many times you can go back and look at the amount of interviews, how many times they said, we can't do HD remaster. We can't do it on Xbox. We can't do it on PC. And they have literally canceled themselves out every time. So if there is a will, there is a way. There certainly is the money there, in my opinion. Maybe not from Square Enix, but I would say Xbox would be interested.
Well, dude, Xbox still charges you for online.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something with Square just being like, until you, I don't know. Maybe it costs PSN Plus or whatever on Sony. I don't know. I know Sony usually is free for MMOs, where Xbox doesn't seem. I think they are going that way.
I know Final Fantasy XIV, you have to like buy the game. Like in Elder Scrolls Online. Elder Scrolls Online, you can buy the game and then play.
I mean, how much does a company want to go back and spend to get an old game on their system? I mean, like maybe Microsoft is like, hey, we got it on, Windows. That's enough or whatever. But you're probably right. It's probably more Sony. I mean, we already know about Resident Evil 7 and the VR, and so
yeah. It just to me this comment, I know I'm pushing my own little thoughts here, and I don't mean to be over crazy about them, but I really do feel like there's some bullshit in this. So,
well, there always is, because money is the only thing that you need to pretty much do anything, because it would just be resources. If Nintendo has streaming games, anybody can do anything.
Yeah.
Because Nintendo can't even figure out what online is, and they have streaming games. So, yeah. I mean, there is bullshit of some kind. It's just we don't know if they're saying they want more money or they're saying they got paid money.
Yeah. That's well said. All right, number 5. This one will be all you, Karak. Xbox has introduced their very own wireless headset to the market. This headset will be available March 16th at the tight price of $100 and boasts the following features: syncing up with your phone and console, where they used an example of being in a business call while playing your favorite game. It supports Dolby Atmos. It also has a auto mute feature, 15 hours of battery life, and dual beam forming microphone with voice insulation. Not much more else on it, but this is the first time I can recall. We've seen the headsets come out, like, the classic Xbox headsets that would come with a 360 or whatever. We saw the stupid earbud with PlayStation, and I know PlayStation had their own gold, I think they called them, headphones or something like that. I actually owned a pair. Those were beyond uncomfortable. Just based off the specs listed alone, as a guy you own a ton of headphones, right? And What do you think of what Xbox has introduced here to the market? Wireless at that.
Without hearing them, I honestly can't, because, dude, I've got some really expensive headphones that suck. But I will say the two connections is pretty rare. So the ability to have like the phone and your game, that's honestly like not a system seller, but a headset seller. Also, the price is ridiculous. Now, when they say Atmos support, okay, so the one thing I want to say is they say Atmos support, right? Mm-hmm. So technically, I get what they're saying, but the Xbox is what needs the Atmos support. You see what I'm saying? You don't need the headset to technically have that. So it depending, of course, on which one does the processing, but we know the Xbox has got Sonic and all that, and you don't have to buy like Sonic certified headphones. In fact, that's the exact opposite of what they want. They want it on the source so that you can put whatever you want to wear and listen to those things. I will also say I haven't been in love with Windows Sonic, and Atmos support is spotty, unfortunately, in games. A game has to support it correctly. There's software fakes, but they never really work well. So the price is awesome. The dual, awesome. Those two things are awesome. Any kind of dual beam, waveform, uber awesome German fucking made head or microphone, I don't care about. Like, that's their microphones usually suck. I don't care if BMW makes them. Microphones on headsets, dude, I don't know about you. I have like Sennheiser. I have expensive Sens, and their mic still sounds like dog shit. Yep. So I think what they're saying is, compared to, like you said, the old Xbox one that you got in the 360. Remember that? It had a little piece of foam.
I used to use it all the time.
One ear, by the way. That's how no one cared about audio. They were like, here's a mono speaker. So,
dude, I can't believe I used to sit on Xbox all the time, right? I'd have that one little ear.
Yep.
And then you have like the plastic piece on the left that's just keeping it secure.
Sorry, that's going to ring unless I get up.
Good.
I apologize.
You're good. No, you're good. You're good. And then you had like the little mute switch, like the little. It just made a little like popping sound when you muted in what's it called, Xbox parties. And
the thing was, a call from Anonymous. The thing about the Xbox in particular was the idea that these guys are like running Windows and shit like that, and they still give you a mono, like a single headphone, was just ridiculous. Like I could never believe that. So yeah, this is cool. Also comfort, like you just said, you have nice ones and they're sometimes uncomfortable. I have, $500 used to. I've sold most of them that were uncomfortable. $500 for $500, that thing should be like a pillow. It should be like two angels breathing lightly on your ears. And instead, you'll get these one that, they're super expensive and they still feel like shit. Yeah. So we'll have to see. Hopefully they're good, man. A lot of people seem to be hyped.
All right. Number 6. As reported by The Verge, their sources have shared that Microsoft has started testing xCloud game streaming through a web browser. The drive behind this web version is due to the limitations imposed by Apple when it came to cloud services, leading to Microsoft getting creative with their implementation of xCloud on said devices. The web version will include a launcher, the ability to resume recently played titles, and access to all cloud games through Game Pass Ultimate. Naturally, a controller will be required, as for resolution, this will be running off the Xbox One S server blades. So full 4K streaming won't be available until the back-end hardware is upgraded to match that of the Xbox Series. So yeah, I just thought this would be a little bit noteworthy with our continuous conversation of Game Pass, and we talked a little bit about FPS Boost, that things are coming around on the Apple front, and that it'll be done through a browser, as was previously reported and I believe directly told by Xbox themselves. But the fact that it'll include a launcher and stuff is great. And like I said, I'm very excited to be able to pick up a game from Game Pass and kind of continue it here at the studio, because I have a Ninja Turtle arcade cabinet, and I do turn to that for a couple of minutes to burn. But having a Game Pass on the go as a Apple phone user, it has not been available to me. How much have you messed around with xCloud in general? I imagine you have, because I'm pretty sure you were Android. So
yeah, I personally like it. It also lets you stream, like we talked about week before last. It lets you stream from your console as well internally in your own network, which is weird, but awesome. And so, yeah, I've streamed a bunch. I use a third-party app right now for most of my streaming, but I personally didn't see any negatives with the Xbox. Like it worked the way I was expecting. There's always going to be something going on. You can tell, you can tell.
Right.
But Gears Tactics or something, dude. In fact, Gears you'd probably be fine because Gears isn't quick. It's more about putting your gun on somebody and timing your reload and hitting them with as many bullets. So Gears probably would work great as a shooter. Maybe not so much like a Halo or a COD, but yeah. And then browser, that makes sense because, dude, the Edge browser is so ahead of where Microsoft used to be. It's ridiculous how like lean and efficient that browser is. And I'm assuming they'll probably suggest best with Edge, which is their browser. And even I use it on a couple different video websites and stuff like YouTube. I won't watch on Chrome anymore because I get this weird, almost like a buffering that sometimes pops up where I can load up like 10 videos on Edge and there's no issues whatsoever. So yeah, it makes sense. It'll be fun to see.
Yeah, and I imagine this could transfer over to something like, hey, here's this old laptop, but you can stream it through your web browser. And so that'll be good. Just a quick one there. And then number 7, news in the PC gaming world for all of you out there. Kingdom Hearts is no longer console only, and more curious gamers will have the ability to check out since it's heading to PC via the Epic Game Store. Sadly, this reveal is a double-edged sword for fans as the modding community is vibrant for Kingdom Hearts and a PC version makes the tinkering all the more tantalizing. With that in mind, the prices that you will be paying for these games is staggering given their dates of release. Kingdom Hearts 1.5 Remix released in 2013 and 2.5 a year later in 2014, compiling together a total of 4 games and 2 remastered cutscene movies that are going for $50 on the Epic Game Store. Even more hilarious, Kingdom Hearts 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue, which has a couple of hour experience where you play as Aqua, another cutscene movie, and the original 3DS exclusive Dream Drop Distance, is going for $60. Kingdom Hearts 3, alongside its Remind DLC, is sitting at $60. And lastly is the most recent entry in the franchise, Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory, which is a rhythm game that released at the end of 2020, going for $60. This puts the entire franchise at a whopping $230 total for all of its content. The Kingdom Hearts all-in-one package, boasting 10 Kingdom Hearts experiences, is going for $30 on PS4 as we speak. Kingdom Hearts drops on the Epic Game Store March 30th, 2021. Separately in the PC world, just switching gears for a sec here to put them all in one spot, Metro Exodus is getting an enhanced edition on PC and will be free to existing owners. The upgrade will be listed as a separate product, most notably focused on ray tracing. On Series X, the upgrade will be bringing ray tracing alongside 4K 60, and on Series S, the target is 1080p, However, they did mention bringing ray tracing over to this version as well. There isn't a release date yet for these new upgrades. So, Karak, Kingdom Hearts coming to PC. What do you make of those prices?
Overpriced.
Hell yeah, it is. Holy shit, man. That's fucking insane.
For all 2 of you who are waiting for the PC version, right? There's maybe 2 people. I don't know anybody who was waiting for that because by this time, those games are so old. A lot of people would have visited them already. I didn't realize about the modding thing. That's certainly.
Yeah.
But to me, like, it's just too expensive. They price themselves completely out of, like, my personal interest, that's for sure.
Oh, like, absolutely, man.
I mean, I'd review it, but
my taste on Kingdom Hearts is like soured over time. Honestly, I
3,
I love the charm. I like 3. I actually think 3 gets a lot of flack, but I hate that it has no Disney fights whatsoever. I think that removes a good chunk of it. Really,
I remember you telling me that.
And it really lacks Final Fantasy characters. So it's 2 of the major pillars of Kingdom Hearts aren't there, and honestly, as time has gone on, I really only like a lot when it comes to, or love really, Kingdom Hearts 2.
Right.
Birth by Sleep is good. It's a good series, and I enjoy it a lot. But especially with how nonsensical its story is, just over time, I just think to myself, like Melody of Memory 4 or 5 years ago, I would have been all over that. But I saw it and went, what the like, dude, give me a fucking break. Like, I don't care. Just please reboot this franchise and figure it out. But yeah, the modding community, I follow a YouTuber who I'm friends with. His name is The Gamers Joint. Great channel. Really cool guy. And he'll mess around with Kingdom Hearts mods every now and then in his videos. And he's got a great personality. So I really do recommend you check him out for those who are interested. But that's where I see a lot of Kingdom Hearts mods. And you'll see some really cool ones with people kind of switching up how the game is played. There was a randomizer at one point, which is pretty popular for New Vegas now. So yeah, pretty good mods there. And then Metro's getting a significant upgrade, it seems, and it'll be free to existing owners on PC, so just keep that in mind if you already own the game, like many of us do. Number 8, last one here, and then we'll get into our Game Pass picks of the week. Microsoft has announced its first gaming event, and while it's not on the level of significance of a gameplay showcase, it may be worth paying attention to. On February 23rd and 24th, the AI in Gaming Research Summit will take place, where Phil Spencer, head of Xbox, and Kareen Chowdhury, corporate VP of Gaming Cloud, will be hitting the stage. Now, we're not sure what to expect there, but given that Phil will be there and that Gaming Cloud will be there, this may be where we actually see the aforementioned web browser, xCloud shown off, or some update on Game Pass streaming, something along those lines. So just keep your eye out for that. We'll probably talk about if there is anything of significance shown. We'll talk about that in next week's show. But anything you want to add in with that?
I'm not expecting much.
Yeah, not high expectations, but still something worth keeping an eye on, nonetheless. By the way, do not look for like Bethesda updates there. No one's going to come out with anything. So keep your expectations tempered, damn it. All right. Now, Game Pass picks of the week. Karak, you go first. As promised when I said before we recorded, I'm going to have to use the bathroom.
All righty. All right. So wait, he goes to the restroom. All right. So I was telling him I was having, so we have backwards compatibility and we have Game Pass. And so I was writing, where did I took my notes. All right. So what did he say? Did he say backwards compatibility? Jeez. See, this is the problem. We do these kind of things. When I look on my PDF here, we do these kind of things. And I've sort of got to this point. Yeah. So I got Gears 5 here. So I can't remember if he said backwards or not, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to cover my choice, which right now is actually Game Pass. I think that's what he said. Gears 5. So I'm a big fan of Game Pass, but I think the problem that I've been running into, I almost do nothing weekly other than show up to whatever podcasts. And so when it comes to games and suggestions for you guys, I've found myself having difficulty because to me, I'm like, dude, just go to Game Pass and just download something. It's very difficult for me to choose a game. Matty's more into this. He does tiers lists. I'm not very good at this kind of stuff. And I never really have been. So I've sort of struggled to figure out what I wanted to suggest, but I think Gears 5 is a good suggestion for like Game Pass for that kind of stuff, for the simple fact that it is showing the tech that's pretty incredible. I think on these systems, even the past systems, got high FPS. They're showing it's got variable shading in it, so a lot of tech, and I'm a big fan of that. And I think Gears 5, man, like it got a lot of flack, rightfully so, I think, for the story, because there's some stuff that happens in that story where I'm like, dude, what? Like, what? It's almost like a movie where, let's say, you can't get the main actor, and so you have them show up so they can be killed, right? Almost like Steven Seagal in Executive Decision, where he dies in like the first 10 minutes, and you're like, is he coming back? And the rest of the movie, you're all, he's coming back. He's on the outside of the plane. He's going to come in through a window. He's going to chop suey everybody. That doesn't happen. So with Gears 5, the same sort of stuff goes on with the story, and you have a different main lead. But if you not ignore it, but if you can get past that and start playing it, gunplay is actually pretty cool. The open world stuff is pretty cool. The traversal with the sail runner. We did Matty, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry about that.
You said Game Pass, or did you say backwards compatibility?
Game Pass.
Oh, good. Okay, because I started looking at my list, and all of a sudden I was like, oh shit, I can't remember which one he said, but that's what I went with.
You're good. Sorry about
anyway,
that.
So I would say, I mean, that's a series where, especially with 5, where I just really haven't had any issues all the way through. Like they've been really good, and I would suggest if anybody hasn't played them, it'd be weird if they already own an Xbox, and if they're getting one because of Game Pass or what have you, it's probably a good place to go, because they tell good stories, or in the case of 5, where I think the story isn't as lovely, the open world element was crazy and unexpected. Like, if anybody remembers Halo 1, which we probably already do, in Halo 1, you land on the Halo and you start going, and you have like almost like 3 places you can go to further the story in Halo 1. You can go to the left, and you can go to this valley, or you can go to this ruins, or you can go to this place. And strangely enough, that is almost identical to the way Gears 5 feels when you get into the open world area with the sail runner. You can basically go to locations where things have fallen from the sky, and you have to sort of fight to get items,
right.
And it feels like you can pick and choose, which has never happened. In fact, I love Gears, but it's always felt very binary. And what I mean by that is it's set up for co-op, so you can go. You have those co-op moments where one guy goes right and one guy goes left, and the rest of the time you're together and you have a fight location, but it's always a straight line. You never choose which way to go, and 5 allows that. So that would be my choice.
Nice. Thank you for holding that down, by the way. I got a phone call, and I had to give my brother's doing an orientation, so I had to hand him my USB card reader in the middle of the show. I was like, God damn it, I'm trying to do something. My Game Pass pick of the week is Skate 3. So I dove back into this. I've had this Skate itch. I got Skate 1 for my 360. I'm a big fan of Skate 1. I just love how it's this big open world, and every spot seems so naturally built, it's a believable location most of the time, while still seeing opportunity as a skater. And so I went into 3. Buddy and myself hopped online, and we did free skating amongst multiple locations, and it was just really nice to get into that flow again. There's just a certain rhythm to skate games that is really nice, and I think it could be easily forgotten. And for those who are, I'm waiting for Skate 4, you're going to be waiting a damn long time. You'll see 8 prototype updates knowing EA before you actually get the game. So if you're missing that a little bit, you want that itch scratched like I did, hop into Skate 3. This is a perfect game for those who are looking for something where I just want to free skate, man. I don't want to pay attention to a story. I want to listen to a podcast, maybe this show. I want to listen to music. I want to talk to someone. This is a perfect game for that, where you can either passively play. I forgot they had this cool mechanic where you can place markers. This is not introduced in Skate 3. This is even in Skate 1. You can place a marker, and let's say you just keep bailing. You can just go back to that marker and kind of start your line over and over again. So there's this kind of, I was going to say, there's this almost OCD mentality I have with that game where if I don't do the right trick at the right time and get enough pop on my board and get up in the air, I have to redo the line, and just for this self-satisfaction. Skate is just a fantastic franchise, and while 3 is not my favorite amongst them all, it is available through Game Pass, and it's definitely worth giving a little bit of a play if you've been missing that like I was. And like I said, you can hop online with a friend and just free skate in a variety of locations.
Yeah, that's cool.
Throughout the open
relax.
World. Yeah, dude. I mean, we went to a brewery, and there was this beer tower with a hill, and so we were shooting off the hill and doing coffins through the pillars of the brewery tower. It was fucking awesome. So yeah, I dig it a lot. It was good to get back into that. It's not going to be, at least for me, hours and hours and hours of fun, because I'm very familiar with these games. So it's just like I said, scratch that itch. That's really it. All right. Backwards compatible pick of the week is up next. Karak, yours has LOL after it.
Yeah, so backwards compatibility, I mean, Far Cry 4 just because of the new stuff.
Yeah.
So the new FPS, I was like, you might as well check it out. Far Cry 4 wasn't so bad. A lot of people disliked it. I thought it was actually okay. There was some stupid stuff for sure. But, and then, with all the Far Cries, I would have loved to have seen 5 do all this, but it didn't. But 4, it's serviceable. And the cool thing is you don't have the stuff that 5 had, which I don't know if you remember in 5, but you would get the time where you were going to be kidnapped and you couldn't fight it no matter what. So in Far Cry 5, there were these cutscene moments where you would basically be told you were going to be kidnapped, and you would have to fight people off, and they would never stop coming. You absolutely would continue to fight until you lost, and you'd be kidnapped, and it would move forward with the story and blah, blah, blah. None of that happens in 4. 4's just got, hunting, collecting stuff, swinging around with the rappel, which then got into Primal. Maybe Primal was first, actually. But it's just, and it's just fun gunplay. Fuck off. It's just fun gunplay. It's got cool, stupid weapons, and yeah, I mean, I'm just a fan. Overall, I actually think it's pretty enjoyable, and at 60 FPS now, it's a good step up. So I guess, you know what though, Matty? They're not going to be able to play this, are they? Because that update doesn't come out for them.
It's still good to know, though, I think. I don't think it's a bad pick regardless.
Okay, Alice McGee, American McGee's Alice would be my other choice, which is available now. That's the one that's Alice in Wonderland, but it's demonic. American McGee's the director. He always puts his name
Alice is Alice Madness or whatever.
Yeah, Madness and Wonderland or whatever. But American McGee is the guy's name, and he did the Alice games. They're very cool. So
yeah, Alice is on Game Pass. That's an awesome one. That one's dark too. Really twisted.
very dark. Very dark.
Yeah. All right, next is our backwards compatible pick of the week, where we look into the Xbox. Or wait, I'm sorry, I looped. I just had like a robot moment. I looped. What I meant to say was Cody Richter is up next. I wanted to read their submission, and then I'll get into my own. He said, "Hey, Matty and Karak, just wanted to thank Matty for recommending Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance a few episodes ago as the backwards compatible pick of the week. I grabbed this game for $5 on the Microsoft Store and loved every minute of it. I can't believe I slept on this game in the 360 generation. Everything about it is fantastic, from the combat to the story, to the soundtrack, and everything in between. Although it is short and sweet, this is a game everyone should give a shot, and I look forward to more awesome games that you recommend." All right, Cody, I'm going to stop you there. Story's not good, man. It's not good.
Yeah, I distrust Cody.
I was about to say. If you tell me a story's good, I don't care if it's like Red Dead 2 or something. I'm gonna laugh at you. It's just there's no way I'm taking you seriously now. Just because like this game became popular again because in one scene the president that you fight at the end of the game says "Make America Great Again." Yeah, it's like Jesus Christ. But yeah, this is an awesome game. For those who like I said, dig riding, dig action combat, want something different in Metal Gear that's not Snake and stealth gameplay, right? Sandboxy stuff. This is awesome, and most importantly, about 4 hours long, very short. So $5, perfect price to get it at. My backwards compatible pick of the week, however, is an interesting one. I'm not a fan of this franchise really, but I bought it because I heard it was a lot better on Series X, and I thought now would be a good time to try it. Not a long game. I picked Sonic Unleashed. So, like I said, not a big Sonic fan. I only like Sonic Generations just because that hybrid gameplay of 2D Sonic, 3D Sonic, recreating old levels. I think that is awesome. And so Sonic Unleashed instead has really good 3D levels so far from what I've experienced. But then you have these werehog levels where you're
oh
running
my god,
around. It's
that's
like
the one where you turn into you transform, right?
Yeah, it's like a beat 'em up, and it's not bad. I'm actually enjoying it a lot, and there are parts where it would normally chug on 360. I looked up, and when I'm playing them on my Series X now, it runs pretty smooth, and so awesome. It's making it a pretty enjoyable experience compared to those who have probably played it at launch and have a different taste with it. It's also kind of neat because this was a PS2 game, right? It was in 08, so it came out in a very interesting time where you were seeing how far the PS2 could be pushed, but what could squeeze onto the 360 and whatnot. And so yeah, I've really been digging Sonic Unleashed. I got it for I've got the complete in box, so I think I got it for about $15 on eBay, and it's been so far worth the price of admission. Nice, simple game. It's got some nice puzzles at times, and while the werehog levels are a little bit longer than I'd want, it's a night and day difference from what they do with Sonic now, because in previous Sonic games, recent ones, it's always been this like bang, 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 like just constant go, and you can't tell what's going on, and it's just so fucking fast that you're not pressing any buttons. You're just holding a stick in a direction, and so it's not fun. Where Sonic Unleashed has like multiple tiers to the level. There's challenges, there's trials, so there's some depth there. And then you've got these beat 'em up sections. So pretty good. Been enjoying that. Definitely not a bad thing to look into if you're up to a little Sonic. Now, it's time for our PC deals of the week. First off, it has a Humble Bundle. They're doing a combat strategy sale, so a couple of games that stuck out to me here were Escapist 2 for $5, Hearts of Iron 4 for $10, and Age of Wonders Planetfall for $12. Have you played any of these? I've only played Escapist, but I've seen things about Hearts of Iron.
And Age of Wonder I reviewed. It had a lot of tech issues when it first came out, but I believe they're fixed. So, yeah, those last two. I didn't play the first one.
Number 2, Guilty Gear Strive. This is a game coming out in April. Can now be pre-ordered, and I'm normally against pre-orders, but I figured if you're into this type of game, like a Guilty Gear game, it's a very specific audience that's probably kind of committed to it already. So if you're looking for a cheap way to get it, you can go over to Green Man Gaming where they have an offer available. Instead of $60, you can get this for $47. So pretty good deal there. You can take that money and maybe you go pick up Hearts of Iron. This is how you repurpose your cash. Or maybe you go buy Five Guys because you're fucking weird. Number 3, GOG has a platformer sale as well as a midweek sale. And while already on Game Pass, you can get No Man's Sky for $30 for you to own amongst many other platformers available. And last but not least, Epic Games Spring Showcase sale is continuing on. And some other noteworthy picks outside of the ones that we mentioned last week are Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning is $20. So if you do not own Kingdoms of Amalur already, this is a good price to buy into. It's what I actually suggested in my review. I said $20, it's fine. At 40, I did not like it. Mortal Shell, however, is $23, so that's at about an almost $10 discount. And then Rage 2 will be a free game in the coming week. So if you have not played that, man, I know a lot of people dig on Rage 2 a lot. I fucking like that game. I think it's really good. I think it's fun to play. I love the universe. I love the moments where you're just driving around in your car and then car combat ensues. And it feels like Doom in an open world setting. And I like the moments of respite where a lot of people who enjoy Doom like that kind of keep coming at me mentality that those games seem to embrace. So if you're into my style of Doom, you'll like Rage 2 a lot. It's really fun to play.
And it's free.
And it's free, man. Yeah. Like,
so, I mean, try it.
Yeah. Try it. See if you like it. Epic Game Store. All right. That's it for the PC game deals of the week. And now we can move into the wrap up where we have 5 ending questions from the audience submitted via patreon.com/laststandmedia. First one is from Walter Boley. Yo, Double D Dukes of Hazzard. I'm writing in about my personal favorite Microsoft exclusive, Killer Instinct. This fighting game released alongside the Xbox and persisted a lot longer than many people realize. With Street Fighter sticking with Sony for the foreseeable future, would Xbox be wise to continue investing in Killer Instinct to maintain a hold on the fighting game community? Or would Microsoft be better off using Iron Galaxy for something else? Thanks, Dukes, and I hope you're staying healthy. You too, Walter. Yeah, this is an Xbox exclusive that came out when Xbox One launched, and it does not. I don't know, man. I remember this was my favorite Xbox exclusive for a long while. Not like overall, but in that launch window, I played Killer Instinct the most. I really like this game. They added a story mode to this thing, arcade mode, more characters. They added Arbiter in. I mean, so much support for this game, and no one talks about it. So I feel like my interpretation is I'm always a believer that Microsoft should have their foot in the door everywhere. And that does not mean you have to go all in like JRPGs. I don't think that's their audience at the end of the day. They are a US marketed console. That's where they're strongest. But I don't think it hurts too for those who are in the US or globally to have some JRPGs there. Same thing with fighting. Your D-pad is kind of inferior to the PlayStation when it comes to fighting games. It's just not as comfortable or as fluid for players. I like the D-pad on the Xbox because it's clicky, but it's not good for fighters. But still, having fighting games is not a bad thing. And not just third party, but something like a Killer Instinct or a follow-up to that. I think they should keep their foot in the door on that. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. I don't know where it went. I don't know what the fighting community is like due to the virus. So I do know because a lot of them didn't want to go online because of the lag and stuff. And I know I'm seeing constant Reddits where people are like, okay, this netcode screwed up here and then this game. So I don't really know how big Street Fighter going to Sony only is as well, because I think their last game didn't even have a story when it first got released.
No.
Like,
they're re-releasing it again.
I think
the Capcom leak? Did you see in the Capcom leak, not to cut you off, with how they had Street Fighter 6 and then they had the re-release of Street Fighter 6 already planned? They were just committed to doing that, like a complete edition or whatever. Yeah, just like real next level scumbaggery.
Right? Next level, yeah. But I mean, you have Injustice, which we know 3 is being made. We know more. So I mean, those aren't the same kind of games. But Killer Instinct was in the fighting community for a while, but I think Smash Brothers style games have replaced it. I mean, there's always going to be Tekken too, and I think even Virtual Fighter, which Tekken, is arguably, I think, better as a fighting tournament game than almost any game currently in fighting games, other than maybe Street Fighter, that one's even gone. So I just don't know where they are. I don't know if there's any money to be made. There might not be. There might, dude, and it's a bad community, not a bad community, but a hard community to make happy, if not almost impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, at least from what I've seen.
That's why it's so easiest for Smash. It's like, hey, what mascot do we get in here?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And Smash is great. Obviously, it takes insane skill, which I don't have. Yeah. I've seen fights where I'm like, whoa. But I would also say it's loose. And it's not that 2-person where perfect frames are the thing. It's not really, and I don't even hear people really talk about it that way as much. They're talking about like these moves and when you can do it. And there's some cool stuff, but it just doesn't seem as technical as like a Street Fighter where they're like, this has a 0.3 frame dip or whatever. And you're just like, Jesus. Yeah, like at that point, only the highest of the high can do it. I think with Smash, somebody can get in there and, funny enough, smash away and feel like something cool's happening. They may not win, but they're like, cool shit's exploding. And
that's why I think Dead or Alive 6 should have gotten a little more attention, because they had good auto combos and ways to fight. And obviously Dead or Alive, since my first entry was 3, the impact of like strikes and throws in that game is second to none. It just feels so good to fight in that game. And yeah, the DLC,
they botched that release
yeah,
in so many ways. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, man. So that's one that could have picked it up. But yeah, for Microsoft, I think, yeah, having one fighter, not going to hurt them. Whether it's third-party exclusive or not is up to them. I imagine they're not going to set up a studio for a fighter, but who knows? Number 2 for our final questions of the show comes from Sean Mason. Hey, boys, with the Snyder's Cut releasing a few weeks away, it's got me thinking, what game deserves the Snyder Cut treatment, which means all extra scrapped content reassembled twice the length of the original game? I'm going to exclude that second part because I don't know if twice the length should make it better. The first thing that comes to mind for me is MGS5. I would love to see what the final product would have looked like if Konami and Kojima hadn't had their falling out. Best, Sean M. PS5 guy still blows. Thank you, Sean. Thank you for saying what others won't. All right. What is a game that could benefit from that kind of complete edition? Because the thing is that the terms in our industry, usually a complete edition means like we've done all the patches, all the support. Like that's kind of the Snyder Cut in a way. But the idea that maybe a game got done dirty and released incomplete, like a Cyberpunk, is that's kind of what came to my mind. I would love to see Cyberpunk just the end of this year just say, hey, we're doing complete edition. We got our DLC. We've got this next gen upgrade. We've fixed a lot of the bugs. We've added features. They're adding quests, I think, this spring. So that would be my pick, but I know that's super recent, but it's just like the only game I can think of that, even though I loved it, it didn't come complete with, they cut it, and every game has cut content, but like Cyberpunk cut trains and transportation methods and tons of things from the game. Third-person cutscenes, car customization. So yeah, I would love to see those make their way into the game, and that be the Snyder Cut, so to speak. Explore more quest paths like they kind of teased but never chased. That'd be great.
Yeah, I would probably go with that too. I don't really ever think of a game that's like, when a game's out, it's out. I don't even believe in the Snyder Cut thing. Like, it's just like, to me, that's...
I don't either. I don't care about that, to be honest with you.
I don't either. I will admit that the trailer looked cool in the superhero way because all it was one-liners, which I've never seen in a movie, in a trailer before. I mean, I've heard that in a world, but this was just there was no talking. It was just one-liner, almost like they were yearning for that Arnold Schwarzenegger moment of like, get to the chopper, where you can be like,
for the meme that's going to get posted.
They're looking for the meme. And it was crazy. Yeah. It was just, I was listening to it going like, dude, no one's talking. They're just like, sometimes you got to fight even though you may lose. And then another dude stands up and they're like, but if you do lose, you got to keep getting up. And it's just like, what the fuck? So yeah, I would say I just don't care at all about that stuff. And I don't think games are the same. I think you're right, Cyberpunk, but even then, it's like, is it cut or is it not programmed? There's a big difference. And I think a lot of the stuff, including the trains were cut, but they're also not fully programmed to allow you to get on. And it's not like they were fully running. They're moving, but what I'm saying is they're not fully interact. How much work do you want these guys to do? Yeah, to do that versus, in all honesty, if somebody said there was a Cyberpunk 2, I would probably embrace Cyberpunk 2 more than I would embrace, oh shit, we fucked up version of Cyberpunk 1.
Yep. Well said. James writes in, good day to you, Mr. Matty, and disgruntled voice of ACG. I'm writing in to tell you guys I love this show, and you're both doing a fantastic job. As someone who skipped out on Xbox since the 360 generation, I am watching their gaming I am watching their gaming catalog closely. As a husband and father, I do not have as much time to game as I once did, so I enjoy high-quality single-player games the most. With Xbox potentially making Elder Scrolls 6 an exclusive, I would be in the camp to buy a Series X at that point. However, if the statements of Game Pass app coming to TV are true, then I would just go that route. So why would Microsoft do that? I'm curious on your guys' thoughts on putting Xbox Game Pass to an even more accessible device like a smart TV, when in my case, that would definitely ensure I never spend the money on the console. Again, I love the show. Keep living adequately. Thank you, James.
Well,
so, sorry, go for it. I don't even have to set it up. Go for it.
I mean, it's the same way as a streaming service. Like, that's... Microsoft would do it because it makes sense for them financially. It doesn't... there's no reason for them to worry about selling you an Xbox when they're already close to loss leaders. I'm assuming the Xbox, they only make $50 at most. And they can't sell them right now. So if Microsoft can get you to buy off on an app on your Samsung and subscribe to them, it makes total sense, because I don't think people realize the consoles aren't cheap to make currently. In fact, I would say they cost even more than they normally would due to the virus and the impossibility of getting the chips.
You'd have to imagine A&D's gonna try to bump up the price a little bit since they both
that's definitely happened. Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous for sure.
Yeah. So honestly, it's just that simple, James. It's really just the route of accessibility. It obviously the developers on Game Pass would want this too, because it's way more eyes you can reach, and that means if you're a Fallout 76, a Destiny 2, you're baked into Game Pass, and people find your game and they start playing through that, man, and like, that's just free cash at that point. Like, it's just a good route.
Because you may not have sold it. Like, they may not even have bought an Xbox, or they can make $5 on a sale on Game Pass or whatever the royalty is. Yeah, it's just financially, I don't think people get it. It only makes sense. And did you see the post this morning by the guy who does the NPDs? A year or two ago, he said Game Pass. A year or two ago, he did a tweet where he's like, Game Pass, for some reason, does not pull or cannibalize sales. It causes them to increase. And then this morning he tweeted and re-quoted himself and just said, yep, still that way.
Yeah.
So like, it doesn't matter if we understand it, it's obviously working.
Yeah. The other thing is,
go with it.
I feel like because it's a TV, it's such a I can play this on my TV, where like people aren't thinking this way with, say, your phone, right? Like, I think your phone, that's almost as accessible as the TV. Yeah, like you're almost not everyone has one, but you're almost expected, like, you've got that. And so if you're able to play on that and the reach is there, I feel like that could just be, why would they do that when I could just buy the console? It's the same thing here with the Game Pass on TV. It's just, especially on the app, I think there's even more eyes there, because if it's like it comes with a new Samsung TV and you see like Netflix and you see the Game Pass thing like right next to that as a box, like, what's that? Just being able to preview a trial for $1.
TVs, I bet you it wouldn't. If a TV's $1,500 for a good HDR, I would assume you're going to get a year free as well.
That'd be sick.
Imagine that. Imagine somebody's like, hey, you want a brand new TV? Here's a year free. Or here's a year at a huge dividend, because Samsung most likely would do that thing like Ubisoft does with video cards, where they put in Far Cry in a video card. Dude, Microsoft, you can bet your ass, would be like, oh yeah, we'll give, we'll cut it way down for people so that they subscribing becomes almost a no-brainer kind of situation.
Agreed. So there you have it, James. Now on to Benjamin Schultz. We got a couple of a lot of people like to get to know us in our last episode, and so
I want to make sure we're not holding you over, Matty.
No, you're good. We're actually good on time right now.
Okay, great. Continue.
We're good.
Sorry.
Benjamin Schultz writes in, Matty and Karak, I love your content and appreciate the Xbox vibes of this show. How do you deal with having so many shows covering the same weekly events? Ham Radio, your individual shows, and now defining Duke, I can see covering the same things gets old, but you guys seem fresh all the time. How do you do it? Thanks again. Hoping for many more shows. Thank you, Benjamin. I thought this was a great question, because you and I think both run 4 shows at this point. I do Defining Duke, Duke Ultimate, Ham Radio, or Slice of Ham, sorry, which is our bonus show for that. And then I know you do Just the
D&D, Just the Tip, Ham with you, and then the secret one that now some people have figured out that I'm on, because I let slip, unfortunately, on Twitter, but yeah.
And then you're also on this, so 5.
Oh, sorry, and on the, yeah. I mean, I would say we're not fresh, though. I want to say thanks because, dude, there's times where Matty and I, and we just did it today, where I'm like, did we talk about this in this one or that one? Mm-hmm. But an Xbox One, I got a shit ton of stuff in YouTube. I posted Defining Duke when it went live. And I was like, hey, blah, blah, blah. And people just shit themselves. And they had not done that prior. They were like, how dare you just do Xbox? So, of course, I went in and I lit them up. I was just like, you don't understand. It's not my show. As in, it's not on my channel. You know, somebody invited me and hell yeah, I'll do it. I don't care if they're talking about Switch, I'd do it. And people are like, how dare you talk about one system, blah, blah, blah. I don't think they get it.
Stupid.
To me, talking about one system is actually refreshing because
that's what
especially
I'm saying,
like Ham, we have a tendency and dude, just the tip has lately just been crazy where I don't even do a schedule anymore. I'm like, let's fucking just do it. So on Ham, we do the same thing where we're sort of crazy sometimes. And so you're bouncing around and sometimes it's a little harder to get your thought. Here, Matty does a schedule and it's actually pretty nice because it's just like,
you just show up, man. Like,
yeah, but I mean, it's not only that, it's that I know we're not going to talk about like Switch. I mean, we wouldn't probably talk about it. Let's say Switch got DLSS or, you know, we probably wouldn't like dive down deep into it. And if we did, it'd be from like, hey, will Xbox do this? And it's refreshing to me to be able to do that, at least for an hour or two, and talk about one thing. And, you know,
I think that's it too. I think Ham is a lot more loose. It's more, we do it on Fridays is when we record. For those who don't know, that's where Early Access goes live on my personal Patreon. And we kind of cap off the show week rather, just very relaxed. You know, it's definitely like we'll get uppity and we'll debate topics and shit, but it's more so just a long discussion at the end of the week. There is no structure. I mean, Karak, you could probably name how many times I've come into the call and said, so what are we talking about this week? Like, just what is the news? Like, it happens a decent amount. It's definitely not as planned or as heavily thought about. And that's what people like about the show. So it makes it easy for us to just show up and chat. And, you know, it lets us flow a little bit easier. This is nice because, long story short, when we were bringing Dustin on to Ham Radio, I thought about rebranding Ham Radio entirely. And I had this energy to kind of put my thoughts and all these ideas I had into a new podcast. And originally Dustin and I were going to do a show, and then Dustin didn't want to, or Dustin had a different idea or something like that. And Colin, you know, said like we'd be good to do a show. And so we came up with the Xbox One, and then I invited Karak. And so I just have this good energy for this show because it's exciting to be, I think, a part of something too. It's not only just the discussion at hand and like looking at it from a particular angle, an angle that also kind of just naturally slotted into my channel. That's the other thing. You know, I've talked about Bethesda, Obsidian, In Exile, just to name a few, for years. And I know I just happen to have, because of those games and the things I consistently talk about, and I've been an advocate of Game Pass since it was announced. I mean, I have a video that has massive dislikes on it where I said, Game Pass is going to change the industry. And there were so many people who were like, fuck you. No, it's not. And, you know, here we are now having a weekly segment dedicated to it. So, you know, it's just one of those things where I feel like it feels like it was the universe saw it fit for me to step into a show like this. And so I've really embraced it, and good sleep helps. I have not been getting that lately, but that explains why when the backwards compatibility, I reintroduced it because I'm like running on fumes as we speak.
I've also found, you know, I think for you and I, like when we're doing Ham, it is Friday, so we've talked about a lot of stuff. So if we do repeat, I don't think we're going to care. We'll be like, fuck it, whatever. We repeat ourselves. Dustin's there usually.
Too.
And so we have a third person there, but I think with this, it's also nice because if you do want to talk about one console, it's much easier to look for news on one console. I got to tell people, man, when you're trying to look for news on everything, all the consoles, all the games that they may release, all the stuff, it can actually become this towering, like, hill of what do we climb up? Because there's been times where I know there's been stuff and you like we've been like, what are we going to talk about? And your brain gets in a weird brain freeze. It's like there's almost analysis paralysis. There's too much. I also think I genuinely sit at like a 9 out of 1 to 10 in anger anyway. And so the idea of being on this podcast sort of it makes me happy because I know that some people don't like it. And so I sort of love, I don't like people attacking like in the comment or in the questions and stuff where people are like that's not my thing. But outside of the podcast, I almost like to say it on Wednesday, and then we let it slide. And I'm like, we said this. And then you can see people like on YouTube being like, what the fuck? Well, actually, they don't. But on Twitter, they'll be like, what the fuck? You said this or that. And it's like, yep, what are you going to do about it? Like, what are you going to do? It's fun. It's like, it's fun for us to do something that's one console. But I will not say we're rested. There's been times where I've missed this one. You haven't missed this one, right? No, because you...
No, not this show.
Or did Dustin? Okay, so you haven't missed this one. But I mean, rested... like I said, thank you very much. Because I think that, especially in the last couple weeks or months, we've had issues getting to ham. I've had issues. Yeah. I've had somebody miss Just the Tip podcast like 6 weeks total in the last like couple months because of illness. And it's... So that people are excited is really cool to me, because there's been times I've never thought we did a bad podcast, but there's been times even when we got done where I'm like, sorry guys if I was a little quiet, blah blah blah, and people are like, hey man, it was a really active podcast. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah, right. Sometimes I felt like saying something's like just a bad call, right? Like just calling yourself out.
Well, we've done it even on your podcast where we leave and we're like, man, you know, you'll be like, I might cut this. You and I used to have that conversation more, I think, when you were trying to figure out what you wanted to do with your channel. But it was like, I might cut this, or maybe you blah blah blah, and then now it's just like, suck it. Have whatever we make, and I mean, it's been awesome.
That's just a mentality I've embraced with my content in general, man.
Have
like
to.
A lot of people, when I sit down in front of the camera, you know, I'll have a couple of bullet points, but I just kind of riff a lot of the times, just because I believe in kind of a natural flow. That's what a podcast is, right? Like you just talk. Like you can't plan 2 fucking hours of everything you're gonna say, and so I just think that conversational approach is way underutilized, which is good for us in podcasts and video content, where I think a lot of people, like, one of the number one things I get with my channel all the time is I like your videos. Not even sometimes if I like the game you're talking about or whatever, I just like that you will talk to me, not like I am your either wallet or I am the next customer or I am a fucking idiot or a robot. Newscaster. It's like you just speak. And I think it's because I'll sometimes meander to a story about my friend. It's like, you don't fucking know my friend. You don't know my friend group. Do you need to know this? No, you don't. But even at the end of the day, I think it just humanizes the content. And it's how I want to speak. So yeah, definitely, man. It's I guess it's just if you're trying to be someone you're not, or create a content that you don't want to make, then that's gonna be way more difficult. So for us, at times it is just showing up and chatting. You know, the hardest part about this show is just getting the script all together, where we have all your questions and it flows.
Yeah, because you do a shit ton of writing. Like, dude, I've done I do a podcast with a person who does a pretty good amount of notes, and it has to be highly detailed. He does not do as many notes as you. Like, I'll see your notes and I'll be like, well, of course you're copying and pasting questions now that I think, and articles, but it doesn't matter. You're still doing a shit ton of work. So kudos to you, because when you started sending me those, I was like, and admittedly, like, you know, for example, you and we are getting paid, you know, to actually, which is the only podcast I do actually get that for. But that's also sort of cool, because I admit I take that a little bit more seriously than
of course.
when I'm in Just the Tip, and somebody will be like in Twitter or in Twitch will ask me the same question somebody else just asked. I'll be like, bitch, do you fucking listen? Like, what, you know, and here, even though I joke about that, it's a different feel, which is really cool, because then we have Wednesdays, which is this. You have, I got to do one of those too, but you have the extra one, which is whatever, Tuesday, Thursday, I can't remember.
Mondays we record it now.
I apologize. So. Mondays and then Fridays. It's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. Oh, it is a lot though. It is a lot. Yeah, it's like, oh my god, there's a lot.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I didn't think at times of, like, because I look at our listener count for Extra Slice, and we don't get a lot at all. You know, it's like people who just want to support what I do.
Oh my god, you do that one too.
Yeah,
I forgot.
And so I've thought sometimes, and I don't want to remove content in the name of like another show. I think that's fucked. But at the same time, I look at 20 people listening a week on a 300-person Patreon, and I go, like, you know, how, like, do I keep this or not? I've meandered with that because there have been weeks since we've rolled in Duke Ultimate where I've been like, holy fuck, I've got like 8 million podcasts.
Right.
And I've got to figure this out. Even with like better scheduling, I'm getting up earlier. It just sometimes is a lot. So I'd be lying if I said I haven't thought about making a healthy cut
or maybe
be able to live my life, or every other week.
Or I got to tell you though, it's weird you mentioned that, because you beat me, dude. I got some people who left my Patreon. They were like, I don't want to have to go anywhere else. I want special stuff for this patron, which I've already stated that's not really what it's about other than merchandise and shit. But I'm like, okay, I'll do a patron podcast occasionally. I did one. No lie, dude. I have 1,400 patrons. 9 people listened. 9. And I was like, and they loved it, by the way. I got like, fucking, you know, and that's the problem, because then you'll have people go, oh my God, this is what I've been waiting for. I've only got $2, which is fine. The money, I like the paragraph. Like when somebody's like, I just want to say, man, like, and not kissing ass, just saying, hey, I was having a bad time. You made me laugh when you said this, whatever. But 9 people, dude, 9. And I was like, what the fuck? I even posted in my Patreon. I'm like, okay, guys, you guys asked for this. Only 9 of you listening, and almost every person there was like, we don't want any. You're already doing a D&D. You're always doing all these other things. And it's like, all right, well,
yeah.
It's difficult,
I've
right?
thought about it, you know. I'd be lying if I said I hadn't, because...
Well, you should. You know, I mean, dude, if you're getting that few, maybe you'll get more if you do it every other week or once a month.
I feel like it almost adds more quality to the conversation if you can't hear me 4 fucking places, right? Like there's Duke Ultimate Duke, and then Ham Radio, which is a 3-hour show. That's the thing, right? Like we don't plan that, but it's usually in the 2.5 hour, 3 hour range.
Dude, it's fucking long. It is long, and by the time we're done, my ass is aching. And I'm like, oh my God. I mean, I'm still enjoying myself, but it's a workout. Yeah. Like it's, and when it's Friday at 5 p.m. for me, it's
a bladder workout
for you, right? It's,
yeah.
You're getting done at 7 or 8 at night. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
Not saying it's hard,
upload it right away, but yeah. It's its own thing, man.
Yeah.
Sean McClary is our last write-in here. This one's for you, Karak. I figured to wrap it up, we could help out a fellow listener. Salutations, Matty and Karak. This question is mostly for Karak, but if Matty has some experience with migraines, please chime in as well. Karak, how do you deal with your migraines, especially when you have to get your content created in a timely manner? I suffer from pretty frequent migraines myself, and having to stare at a computer screen for work is literal torture. Do you have any remedies or rituals used to mitigate these? Keep up the amazing content. So I've had this before, and usually my method is like a warm cloth over the eyes and just shut eye. That helps a lot, but you know, I haven't dealt with migraines specifically. Just usually I get congestion, which then the congestion makes me light sensitive. Yeah, sinuses. And then you get light sensitive from that. So like last week I was having that bad. That's why I actually said I'm joining Karak, and I threw on these glasses. Shit, like I was like squinting at the screen. I was like, fuck, man. But for you, you know, you said, I remember one episode you had a pretty roaring migraine. I mean, do you do anything specific for it?
Other than bitch and moan, because I'm a pussy when it comes to headaches. It's weird. I've broken bones. I got stabbed, and I can tell you right now, I'd rather get re-stabbed than have a migraine. And I'm not lying. So, Matty, this is weird. You know how some things bother you, like a food, like you hate, right? Migraines are the thing I hate, and I don't know how to describe a headache, but a headache ruins my day. It ruins my day. Like, I can't enjoy anything. And I've heard this, oh my God, the number of people who folk remedy bullshit. First of all, I'm a believer in meds. A firm believer. If you have migraines, go to the fucking doctor. And if they have a pain pill that's not going to keep you addicted, or they find something out with you, go to the doctor first. Don't listen to me.
But I was going to say, that was my first suggestion.
Strangely enough, other than that, I've heard people say, oh, sex will make it go away. Absolutely not. Because if you have a blood pressure headache, you'll hear a lot of people saying sex will make a headache go away. And I can tell you, because you'll hear those stories of the woman saying, like, I have a headache, you know, the old trope. Bullshit. It usually will make it thunder.
I've never heard this before.
Wow. But you can do the diving method. There's a name for this, and I apologize. I don't know the name off the top of my head, and I should because I say it all the time. But where you plug your nose and you push against your diaphragm as if you're trying to push water out of your ears. And what that does, if you have a blood pressure headache, it'll go away instantly. And that's how you know what type of headache you have. So if I have a blood pressure headache, I have blood pressure meds. You can put your feet up, whatever, you can alleviate that. Onions, don't eat shit like that or shit with tannins. And then another thing is I use Icy Hot on my neck. So Matty and I, when we're at a computer, so you'll see me doing this. That's because I have bad fucking posture, man. And I shouldn't, but I have bad posture, and my neck muscles will start hurting. So prior to them hurting, I'll put Icy Hot on my neck, and when it's burning, it'll cause me to like actually correct my posture, and it hurts less. And that's where I get mine. I get mine through the neck, and then they get up into the back of the head.
I get mine back of the head a lot of the times.
Yeah, right here at the two. Oh, dude.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to describe it.
Fucking bat, bro.
It feels like, yeah. And then mine thunder. So mine are not cloying. That will usually beat with my heartbeat. So they'll go like boom, boom. And there was the one time I was on the podcast with you and I was stuttering because I was trying to talk and it was just like
bang,
rhythmically,
bang.
just bang, bang. So I would say go to the doctor and then also check your foods. Onions, give them to people really bad. I get them really bad from onions, like really bad. I pretty much have to remove that from my list. So, but go to the doctor, man. I'm sure you have. Sometimes you just have to mitigate it. They suck. I apologize. If I could steal it from you, I would, because they suck. They're terrible.
Yeah, dude. It's funny you mentioned the neck thing, because I used to have I still sometimes get it, but I would get tingling in my elbow.
Oh, your elbow thing? Yeah.
Yeah, when it would go into my forearm, and it never hurt, but it's kind of like what you described, where you just fucking hate it, and like to me, it never hurt, never in pain, really never debilitating, but it's just like this. I have to go to a neurologist because it still happens every now and then, and I always think it's something connected to my neck, because when I went to a chiropractor, he did some type of heat scan along my spine, and he saw. Based off like the color of it, if it's like green or whatever, then it's like your spine is aligned.
Shifted a little bit?
Yeah,
right.
And I think when it was red, that's kind of where it signified that there was something off with the discs. And so as he got up towards my neck more, he noticed that that's where the discs were off a little bit. And so he said, this can happen sometimes where, because I told him what I do. I said, I do a lot of gaming. I said, I do a lot of podcasting, video work, editing, especially editing where your arm's up like this and I'm like focused.
Yeah.
So he says what happens is, your head comes out in front of your chest, and it's pulling on your spine.
The neck muscles. And
it's pulling
crazy.
On your neck.
He's absolutely right, because you'll be like this.
Yeah.
And you look like a fucking turtle.
Especially editing, where you just have one side of your arm just tight, and then you get locked in, and so your head just comes out. The amount of times you'll see me do it all show, I'll keep like pulling my shoulders back, my head back. It does help. It does help. It does make a difference. But, that could also be a little bit of it, Sean. Just adjusting your posture. But that's it. That's all we've got for this week's show. Wrapping up at just 2 hours. So we thank all of you for tuning in to Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast.
Yeah, show up and watch my
7.
Persona review if you could. I only got worst fucking video review score.
Oh, dude, I'm nervous for my performance. I'm seeing everyone have like reviews bomb for that, and I'm just like, damn, man, no one cares about this.
IGN's got like 200,000, and I was expecting it to do okay, and I'm at like 30,000. I've never been this low, but I was looking at it and then I don't know if you know this, Matty, but I did have a bunch of people say it didn't go into their their alert.
I had a video
so
underperformed yesterday, so. It was a Mass Effect video, which was kind of odd.
Dude, and when you see it, you're just like I try to hit the normal time now, like the 10 a.m. to 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. my time, which is what YouTube says. But yeah, you'll hit that one. And my reviews are consistent, but I do also believe that the podcast posting and the news posting have really hurt because people don't watch them as much. And when you don't watch them as much, YouTube then, even if it's a review, has a smaller chance of sending you the review update. And so I think what's going on with me is I'm doing stuff like the news, which some people like, but the YouTube algorithm is like, hey, your own watchers are not watching this. And so, because, dude, I don't know if you remember, you and I it was sometime last year, man, I would do a video and I was getting like an insane amount of views for what I would consider to be less content. I wasn't doing as well, like on some of them. But that's because at that time I didn't do daily news. You and I've talked about this. You can't win. You do daily news, you get daily views. You don't. But then when you do something big, it seems to hit much larger.
It depends. I just feel like it depends, hey, what kind of workload do you want? Like, that's where I sit on it.
Oh, for sure.
I like daily. I like having something. Honestly, it's like I like having something to do, something to talk about every day. I like some long-term projects, like a review's a long-term project to me. I've done some other bigger conversations. But yeah, I personally like the daily upload, but it's not for everyone. And the issue is that YouTube has that bullshit ranking system. So it's just like, I'll have a video where, admittedly, I talked about Mass Effect 3's multiplayer. So, I mean, I get why it wasn't going to do well.
In defense of? I saw that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
I get why it wouldn't do that well, because at the end of the day, anything multiplayer on my channel is just born to die. Like, it's just not, it's not going to get any legs. It's not I get it. I get why. It's even in Mass Effect, it's not a single player RPG. It's not a single player game. That's what I want my audience to care about. So I'm not upset by it, but anytime I do deviate from that formula of single player content, it's like,
Well, people should watch this. Tell other people about it because I think we hit a record. Somebody, I can't remember who it was. Was it Dustin? Somebody was saying we hit a record for views. The last one.
We matched Sacred, I think is what he said. We matched Sacred on video, which is pretty good.
So if you're out there and you're listening, tweet us. If there's subreddits, if there's forums, wherever, tell people about it. That's crazy. That's crazy numbers. Better than I would probably do. There's been a couple 50,000 podcasts on mine because we were talking about something big. But
yeah, I was gonna say
usually not those numbers. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
so thanks to everybody who's listening.
25,000 of you every week is off the start. By the way, and this is like a slow start for Xbox. It's like shit, man. I'm excited to see where we go when things do happen.
It's going to be crazy to see. We'll have to figure out how to leverage some of the stuff, but yeah, it's going to be weird when like a Bethesda or, somebody announces something and you're like, okay, how is this going to happen? That'll make Duke Ultimate easier, I would assume.
Yeah, I would agree. All right. Well, that's it. Karak, any final words?
No. Defining Duke's the hashtag, folks.
Yeah. Let us know if you got this deep. Tag us on Twitter. And with that, we will hope to see you all in episode 8 of Defining Duke. Also, if you're a patron, I hope to hear from you in Defining Duke Ultimate. Take good care of yourselves, and we'll talk with you soon. Peace out.
Peace out.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the good old USA. The show was conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Matty's co-host is Jeremy ACG Penter. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level or higher on Patreon, and we're grateful for your kindness and generosity.